Have you ever stood before a cracked mirror, trying in vain to mend its fractures by polishing its surface? You rub and you scrub, believing that with enough effort, the lines will vanish, the image will become whole, perfect. But the cracks remain, a stubborn testament to a break that happened somewhere deeper, somewhere beyond the surface you can reach. Our lives often feel like this, a relentless polishing of a fractured reflection. We are taught we are projects to be completed, problems to be solved, a series of flaws to be corrected. There is a constant low hum of inadequacy that hums beneath the surface of our days, a feeling that we are not quite there yet, not quite whole, not quite enough. We chase the next promotion, the next relationship, the next spiritual insight, believing it to be the final piece that will make us complete. Yet even when we achieve these things, the silence that follows is often filled with a hollow echo, the ghost of that same old feeling, whispering that we are still somehow falling short. We are exhausted from the striving, tired of the battle waged within the confines of our own skin. But what if the very premise is wrong? What if the relentless search to fix yourself is the very thing that keeps you feeling broken? What if the war is a misunderstanding, and your perceived flaws are not mistakes in the design but misunderstood features of it? For just a moment, for the duration of these words that you are hearing, I invite you to do something radical. I invite you to lay down your tools. Put down the hammer and chisel you use against your own heart. Let the measuring tape you hold against your soul fall to the floor. Let us cease the endless project of self-improvement and instead embark on a journey of self-remembrance. This is not a lecture. This is not another list of things you must do to become worthy. This is an invitation into a sanctuary of stillness, a quiet space where you can finally listen, not to the cacophony of what the world tells you you should be, but to the profound, unwavering wisdom that already resides within you. We are not here to repair the cracks in the mirror. We are here to realize that you are not the reflection at all. You are the light that allows any reflection to be seen in the first place. So breathe, let go of the fight, and let us begin, not by fixing, but by listening. It begins as a whisper, so familiar you mistake it for your own thought. It often arrives in the quiet moments, just before sleep, or in the stark, unforgiving light of morning. It is the voice of the eternal editor, the inner critic, the ghost that haunts the hallways of your mind. It knows your name, it speaks your language. It has a flawless memory for every mistake, every stumble, every moment of perceived failure you have ever experienced. This voice, this echo in the void of your consciousness, is the source of the profound and wearying belief that you are somehow fundamentally flawed, that you are a problem in need of a solution. It is the architect of the feeling that you are not, and may never be, good enough. We must begin our journey here by turning to face this voice, not with aggression, not with a sword drawn, but with the calm, unwavering curiosity of a sage. For the first and most vital truth you must understand is this: that voice is not you. It is not the core of your being, nor is it the truth of your soul. It is an echo from a sound made long, long ago. Think of a vast, empty canyon, a single shout from the pasta parent's anxious warning, a teacher's careless comparison, the sting of a childhood rejectionist sent out into the space. Years later, you are standing in that same canyon, and you hear the sound bouncing off the walls, fainter, more distorted, but still present. You have forgotten the original shout, so you believe the echo is a voice speaking to you now. You believe it originates from within. You believe it is your own. This inner critic is a program, a piece of conditioning installed in you without your consent. It was created, often with good intentions, as a survival mechanism. It learned that by criticizing you first, it could preempt the criticism of others. By keeping you small, it could keep you safe from the perceived dangers of failure, judgment, and abandonment. It is a primitive security guard, armed with outdated information, still fighting battles that ended decades ago. It operates from a place of fear, believing that if it does not constantly point out your flaws, you will become complacent, you will make a fatal mistake, you will be cast out. It is not the operating system of your soul. It is an old piece of software running in the background, consuming your energy, slowing down your true potential. It is a radio, left on in a forgotten room of your consciousness, forever playing a looped broadcast of past anxieties and predicted failures. And what have you been doing all this time? You have been arguing with the radio. You have been shouting back at the echo. You stand in the center of your being, locked in a furious, draining debate with a phantom. You present evidence of your worth, and the voice counters with a list of your shortcomings. You try to starve it with silence, but it seems to feed on the very attention you give it in your resistance. You wrestle with it, trying to pin it down and force it into submission, but it is like wrestling with smoke. The struggle is the very thing that gives it substance. The energy you pour into fighting it is the electricity that keeps it broadcasting its message of lack. You cannot win a war against a ghost, because the war itself is what convinces you the ghost is real. This is the great paradox. Your effort to destroy the voice is precisely what strengthens it. Your resistance is its lifeblood. So, we must change the strategy entirely. The goal is not victory. The goal is irrelevance. You do not need to silence the voice. You only need to revoke its authority. You must learn to hear it without believing it. You must learn to observe it without becoming it. This is the beginning of true freedom. It is the moment you stop arguing with the radio and simply notice, with a detached calm. Ah, the old broadcast is on again. You do not need to smash the radio. You just need to stop tuning your entire life to its frequency. How do we begin this practice? We start by becoming the observer, the silent witness. When the voice arises, instead of immediately being swept away by its content, you take a mental step back. You watch it as you would watch a cloud drift across the sky. You notice its texture, its tone, its favorite words. Is it sarcastic? Is it fearful? Is it dismissive? You simply observe, without judgment, without engagement. You are the vast, silent sky, and the voice is just one piece of weather passing through. The sky does not fight the storm clouds. It simply holds the space for them to exist and, eventually, to dissipate. Your awareness is that sky. A powerful technique in this process is to give the voice a name, externalize it, take it out of the center of your identity, and turn it into a character. Do not give it a name that is terrifying or powerful. Give it a name that is almost mundane, perhaps even a little ridiculous. Call it the commentator, the governor, or nervous Norman. When the familiar litany of self-criticism begins, you can then say to yourself, I see the commentator is in the booth again today, offering its usual analysis. Or, thank you for your concern, Norman, but I have this under control. This simple act creates a profound separation. It is no longer I am a failure. It is I hear the voice that is telling a story about failure. The shift is monumental. It is the difference between being lost in a movie and realizing you are sitting in the theater, watching the screen. From this place of observation, we can introduce a question, a gentle inquiry that cuts through the certainty of the inner critic. When the voice says, you will never be able to do that, instead of accepting it as fact or arguing against it, you can ask, with genuine curiosity, who is speaking? Is this the voice of a fearful child within you? Is it the echo of an old authority figure? Is it the collective voice of societal doubt? By questioning its origin, you begin to dismantle its claim to absolute truth. You can also ask, is that true? Not in a challenging way, but in an open, inquisitive way. Is it absolutely, 100% true that I will never be able to do this? The critic deals in absolutes, in sweeping generalizations. Gentle, persistent questioning reveals the fragile foundations upon which its pronouncements are built. It cannot stand up to the light of sincere inquiry. This is not a process of overnight success. It is a practice, a returning, a moment-by-moment choice. There will be times you forget. There will be times you get swept up in the old war, arguing with the phantom in the canyon of your mind. In those moments, be gentle with yourself. The practice is not about never getting lost. It is about getting better at finding your way back home to the seat of the observer. Each time you successfully unhook from the voice, you reclaim a piece of your own sovereign energy. Each time you choose not to believe the broadcast, you weaken its signal. Over time, what was once a deafening roar becomes a background murmur. What was once an undeniable truth becomes a recognizable and ultimately tiresome pattern. The ghost does not die. It simply runs out of people to haunt, as you are no longer available for its haunting. It becomes an echo in a void that is no longer empty, but filled with the quiet, powerful presence of your own awareness. And as we learn to distinguish our own true voice from the echoes of the past, we must turn our attention to the instrument upon which these echoes are most vividly projected. We have been listening to a false broadcast, yes, but we have also been staring into a reflection that distorts our true image. To continue our journey, we must now examine the mirror itself, the cracked and cloudy surface we have been using to define who we are. We have learned to distinguish our own soul's true sound from the echoes of a distant past. Now, we must turn our gaze toward the surface where these echoes, these voices, are most vividly projected back at us. We must speak of the mirror. From the first moments of our existence, we learn who we are by looking at ourselves through the eyes of others. A mother's smile tells us we are loved. A father's nod tells us we are approved of. The shared laughter of a friend tells us we belong. This is the social mirror, the vast and complex mosaic of reflections that builds our sense of self. It is a natural and necessary part of becoming human. We look outward to understand what is inward. But a profound error occurs early in this process, an error that sets the stage for a lifetime of struggle. We forget that we are looking at a reflection, and more importantly, we forget that the mirror itself is not a perfect, pristine surface. The mirror of the world is comprised of other people, each with their own histories, their own wounds, their own fears, their own agendas. It is a collection of fractured, smudged, and distorted surfaces. The parent who reflects your image back to you is doing so through the filter of their own unfulfilled dreams. The teacher who assesses your worth is doing so through the narrow lens of a standardized curriculum. The society that judges your success is doing so with a warped measuring stick of material wealth and fleeting status. And the digital hall of mirrors we call social media is perhaps the most funhouse-like of them all, reflecting back impossibly perfect, curated images that bear little resemblance to reality. So what happens? We stand before these compromised mirrors, and we see a distorted image. We see a crack running through the reflection and believe our soul is broken. We see a smudge of dirt on the glass and believe we are inherently unclean. We see an image that is too short, too tall, too loud, too quiet, and we believe that is our fixed and unchangeable identity. We have made a fundamental mistake. We have confused the reflection for the thing being reflected. We have internalized the flaws of the mirror and accepted them as our own. This is the genesis of the illusion that you need to be fixed. You have been trying to mend a fractured face, when all along, the problem was simply a fractured mirror. You have been trying to scrub a stain off your skin that was only ever a smudge on the glass. This creates a painful and exhausting inner conflict. A part of us becomes addicted to the mirror. We desperately crave a pleasing reflection. We spend our lives performing for it, posing and contorting our true nature into shapes we think will be approved of. We chase achievements, accolades, and affirmations, not for the intrinsic joy of the experience, but for the fleeting satisfaction of seeing a good reflection smiling back at us. We get the promotion, we buy the car, we receive the compliment, and for a moment, the mirror shows us an image of someone whole, someone worthy. We feel a temporary relief, but it never lasts, because the mirror is fickle. The very next day, the very next moment, it can show us something else-seen image of failure, of aging, of not being quite enough, and we are thrown back into despair. The other part of us learns to fear and despise the mirror. We become afraid of being seen. We avoid situations where we might be judged. We hide our true thoughts, our true passions, our true vulnerabilities, lest they create an ugly reflection. We live in a state of constant low-grade anxiety, a perpetual stage fright. We are forever adjusting our masks, checking our appearance in the eyes of others, terrified of what we might see. This life, lived for the mirror, is no life at all. It is a prison where the walls are made of the opinions of others. Here, in this quiet space, we must initiate a revolution of perception. It is contained in a simple, profound truth. You are not the reflection in the mirror. You are the light that illuminates the mirror. Read those words again. Feel them. You are the light. The reflection is a secondary phenomenon, a temporary and conditional event that depends entirely on the quality of the surface it strikes. Your being, your consciousness, your essential self, that is the primary reality. It is the light. The light is constant, pure, and whole. It is never broken. It is never flawed. A cracked mirror will show a cracked image of the sun, but the sun itself remains perfectly, gloriously whole. You are that sun. The problem was never your face. The problem was your unwavering faith in a broken mirror. The healing you seek will not come from fixing the reflection. It will not come from cosmetic surgery for the soul. It will come from withdrawing your attention and your belief from the mirror and turning it back toward the source of the light itself, you. Imagine a vast, clear mountain lake. On a calm day, its surface is like a perfect mirror, reflecting the boundless blue sky and the unmoving mountains with perfect fidelity. But when the wind blows, when storms come, the surface of the lake is agitated. It ripples and churns. In that state, it can no longer offer a clear reflection. It reflects 1,000 fragmented, chaotic images. The sky has not changed. The mountains have not moved. Only the surface of the water is disturbed. Your mind, when it is constantly agitated by seeking external validation and fearing external judgment, is like that stormy lake. It cannot know its own vast, peaceful nature. So how do we calm the waters? How do we break this spell of the mirror? We begin with small, deliberate acts of rebellion. First, you must undertake a validation fast. For a day, or even just for an hour, make a conscious choice to not seek a reflection. This means you do not ask, "How do I look?" You do not post a picture online and then anxiously check for likes. You do not steer a conversation in a way that fishes for a compliment. You simply exist, without needing the mirror to confirm your existence. It will feel uncomfortable. It will feel strange. This is the discomfort of withdrawal from an addiction. Stay with it. You are teaching your nervous system that it can survive without a constant stream of external feedback. Second, you must intentionally enter the sanctuary of silence. Spend time alone, without distraction. This is not about feeling lonely. It is about cultivating sovereignty. Go for a walk in nature. Sit in a quiet room. Turn off your phone. In the absence of other people, there are no mirrors. There is no one to perform for. In this space, you can begin to feel yourself directly, from the inside out. You move your attention from how you appear to how you feel. You begin to notice the subtle energies in your body, the quiet whispers of your own intuition, the simple, profound fact of your own aliveness. This is a homecoming. Finally, undertake an inventory of your intrinsic truth. Take a piece of paper and at the top, write, "What I know to be true about myself," independent of any proof or opinion. Then, begin to write. This is not a list of accomplishments. It is a list of qualities. You might not write, "I am a successful lawyer," because that depends on the mirror of your profession. But you might write, "I am persistent." You might not write, "I am attractive," because that depends on the fickle mirror of cultural standards. But you might write, "I am kind," or I have a curious mind, or I am capable of deep love. Source these qualities from your own direct experience of yourself. This is the act of digging your own well, so you no longer have to beg for water from the taps of others. This is the work. It is the courageous act of turning away from the thousand glittering, broken shards of the social mirror and looking inward. It is learning to trust the warmth of your own light more than the sight of its faint reflection. For a long time, you have been a sun asking broken mirrors for permission to shine. That time is over. The world can only reflect the light you emanate, and the more you source that light from within, the less you will be concerned with the quality of any reflection. To know ourselves in this direct way, to bypass the mirror entirely, we must find a space of absolute clarity. To see the true sky, the lake must become still. To know our own unshakable truth, our mind must find its own stillness. And that is why we must now turn away from the chaotic hall of mirrors and step together into the sacred altar of silence. We have turned our backs on the hall of fractured mirrors, choosing to no longer seek our truth in the unreliable reflections of the outside world. This is a courageous first step, but it begs a question. If we are not looking outward, where do we turn our gaze? We turn it inward. But for most of us, the inner world is a noisy, chaotic, and even frightening place. And so, before we can see anything clearly within, we must first learn to cultivate the one condition in which clarity is possible. We must learn the forgotten art of silence. Silence. For the modern soul, the word itself can trigger a subtle anxiety. We have become a culture that is terrified of the quiet. We fill every available second with sound, with information, with distraction. We wake up to the noise of an alarm. We listen to news or podcasts while we prepare for the day. We immerse ourselves in the sounds of traffic and conversation. We work with music in our ears, and we numb ourselves to sleep with the blue light glow and muffled audio of a screen. We have become addicts, and our drug of choice is noise. The silence is the void we are constantly running from, the empty space we frantically try to fill, because we have been taught that to be silent is to be inactive, and to be inactive is to be worthless. This fear of silence is, at its core, a fear of ourselves. It is a fear of what we will find when the distractions fall away. When the external noise ceases, the internal noise, which was there all along, becomes amplified. The unresolved anxieties, the simmering resentments, the ghosts of past regrets, the relentless chatter of the inner critic, they all rush into the foreground of our awareness. The restlessness we feel when we try to be still is the frantic energy of the ego, the I, which defines itself by doing, thinking, analyzing, and planning. In the face of simple, silent being, the ego feels a sense of annihilation. It panics. It will create 1,000 phantom urgencies, a sudden and desperate need to check an email, to make a list, to remember a trivial task, anything to break the stillness and reassert its own existence. This inner conflict, this wrestling with our own discomfort, is the first threshold we must cross. We must understand that the chaos we feel in the quiet is not the nature of the quiet itself. It is the nature of our own unexamined mind. Here is where we must undertake another great revolution in perception. Silence is not an absence. It is not a void. Silence is not empty. It is, in fact, an infinite container. It is the presence of everything. Think of the deep ocean. Its surface may be turbulent, but its depths are profoundly still. And it is in those depths that the greatest mysteries and life forms exist. Silence is that depth. Think of a symphony. It is the silence between the notes, the pauses and rests, that gives the music its emotional power, its rhythm, its meaning. Without the silence, a symphony is just a cacophony. A life lived without an inner sanctuary of silence is just noise, a frantic series of actions and reactions without a central, organizing melody. Silence is the altar upon which true power is found, not made. In our noisy, outwardly focused lives, our vital energy is constantly leaking out. It leaks out through worry, through endless mental chatter, through the performance for others, through the seeking of validation. We are energetically porous, and we wonder why we are so tired. Silence is the act of plugging those leaks. It is the practice of gathering your energy back into your own core. In the quiet, you are no longer broadcasting your power outward. You are allowing it to accumulate, to concentrate, to heal you from the inside. This is not a passive act. It is a deeply restorative and powerful one. The universe, God, the source, whatever name you choose for the great intelligence of life, does not shout its wisdom in the marketplace. It whispers its secrets in the stillness of your own heart. To hear the whisper, you must first be willing to quiet the storm. So how do we begin to build this sacred altar in the landscape of our busy lives? We do not begin by demanding an hour of perfect, Zen-like meditation. This is a recipe for frustration. We begin with humility and gentleness. We begin with 5 minutes. Find a time in your day, perhaps first thing in the morning before the world has made its demands on you, or late at night after everything is done. Set a timer for 5 minutes. The only goal is to sit and to not voluntarily introduce a distraction. You do not have to clear your mind. This is a myth that discourages countless people. The mind's job is to think. Just as the heart's job is to beat, you cannot stop it by force. Instead, you simply let the thoughts come and go without latching on to them. You let the restlessness be there without acting on it. You can, if it helps, gently rest your attention on the physical sensation of your breath entering and leaving your body. That is all. 5 minutes. This is your daily pilgrimage to the altar. You can also find silence in nature's cathedral. Go for a walk and leave the headphones behind. Listen, truly listen. Listen to the sound of the wind as a presence, not just a nuisance. Listen to the intricate language of the birds. Listen to the sound of your own footsteps on the earth. Nature is the great teacher of being. A tree does not strive, it simply is. A mountain does not worry about its purpose, it simply stands. By immersing yourself in their silent, powerful presence, you begin to resonate with that same quality within yourself. And you can learn to notice the pockets of silence that already exist in your day. The pause after you turn off your car's engine, before you open the door. The moment of quiet while you wait for the kettle to boil. The breath you take before answering a question. These are tiny doorways into stillness. Instead of rushing to fill them, learn to cherish them, inhabit them fully. Each one is a microdose of peace, a reminder of the vast, silent space that underlies all the noise. As you continue this practice, something remarkable begins to happen. The initial restlessness, the ego's frantic panic, begins to subside. It learns that silence is not a threat. It learns that it is safe to be still. And in the calm that follows, you begin to perceive your inner world with a new clarity. The silence acts like a dark, velvet cloth, providing the perfect backdrop against which you can finally see the intricate workings of your own consciousness. You are no longer drowning in the river of your thoughts. You are sitting peacefully on the bank, watching it flow by. In this stillness, you are not creating power. You are not striving for peace. You are simply returning to the peace and power that were always already there, buried beneath the noise. You are coming home. As we become more comfortable on this altar, as the waters of the inner lake begin to still, we start to notice things. We see the subtle shifts in our emotional weather. We see the recurring patterns of our thinking. We see the clouds of thought as they form, drift across the sky of our awareness, and dissolve. We have learned to create the quiet space. We have learned to sit still in the sky of our own being. But now, we must learn the next crucial skill, how to not be carried away by the clouds. We must come to understand, with an unshakable and liberating certainty, that we are the sky and not the storm that is merely passing through it. We have stepped away from the fractured mirrors of the world and entered the sacred altar of silence. We have sat in the stillness long enough for the initial restlessness to subside, long enough for the waters of the mind to begin to calm. And here, in this newfound clarity, a vast inner landscape is revealed. We witness the endless procession of thoughts, feelings, memories, and sensations that march across the screen of our awareness. But observing this procession is only the beginning. The next, and perhaps most crucial step in our journey inward, is to radically redefine our relationship to it. We must unravel a lifetime of mistaken identity. From our earliest days, we have been taught to unconsciously fuse our sense of self with the transient contents of our mind. When a thought of sadness appears, we do not simply observe it. We conclude, "I am sad." When a jolt of anger surges through our body, we do not just feel it. We decide, "I am an angry person." When a wave of fear arises, we become the fear itself, our entire identity collapsing into that single powerful emotion. We do not believe we have thoughts and feelings, we believe we are them. This act of identification is the hidden root of the vast majority of our psychological suffering. It is a fundamental error in perception, a hypnotic trance that has held us captive for most of our lives. To break this trance, we must introduce a new metaphor, a new way of seeing that is as simple as it is profound. We must learn the difference between the weather and the sky. Your thoughts, your emotions, your moods, your sensations, these are the weather. They are transient, ever-changing, and impersonal phenomena. One moment it is sunny and clear, the next it is overcast and stormy. There are periods of calm and periods of turbulence. This is the nature of weather. It is dynamic and unpredictable. And for your entire life, you have believed that you are this weather. You have been running from the storms, chasing the sunny days, trying desperately to become a permanent, perfect forecast. This is an exhausting and utterly unwinnable war. You cannot control the weather of your mind any more than you can command the clouds in the outer world to part. The effort to do so only creates more suffering. First, there is the initial pain of a difficult emotion, the sting of jealousy, the weight of grief. But then, because we identify with it, we add a second layer of self-inflicted pain. We judge ourselves for the weather. "I shouldn't be feeling this way," we tell ourselves. "What is wrong with me that I am so anxious?" We get angry about our anger. We feel sad about our sadness. We are now not only caught in a storm, but we are also berating ourselves for getting wet. Here, today, in this moment of quiet recognition, we introduce the great liberation. You are not the weather. You are not the clouds, the rain, the wind, or the lightning. You are the sky. You are the vast, boundless, and ever-present space of awareness in which all the weather of your life takes place. The sky does not fight the storm. It does not cling to the sunshine. It does not judge the thunder or resent the fog. It simply is. It is the silent, open, allowing context for everything that happens. A hurricane may be a violent and destructive event within the sky, but it does not damage, stain, or alter the fundamental nature of the sky itself. When the hurricane has passed, the sky is not left scarred or broken. It remains as pure, as peaceful, and as vast as it was before the storm ever began. This is your true nature. Your essential self, your consciousness, is this sky. When you know yourself as the sky, your relationship with your own inner weather changes completely. You no longer fear the storms, because you know that they are not you and they cannot harm you. You no longer cling desperately to the sunny days, because you know they too will pass, and the sky that holds them remains. You find a place of unshakable refuge in your own being, a peace that is not dependent on a particular emotional state. This is not a state of cold detachment. It is a state of warm, compassionate, spacious acceptance. So how do we practice this? How do we shift from being the cloud to knowing ourselves as the sky? We begin with the gentle art of labeling or noting. When a strong thought or emotion arises, instead of your habitual reaction of either suppressing it or getting swept away by it. You simply and gently name it. As a thought of worry about the future appears, you can say silently to yourself, "Worrying." This is a worrying thought. When a flush of irritation comes, you can note anger. This is the feeling of anger. You can be more specific. Planning, remembering, judging. Notice the subtle but powerful shift in language. It is not "I am angry." It is "I am aware of the feeling of anger arising." It is not "I am a worrier." It is "I am aware of a thought pattern of worry." This simple act of naming creates a space. It is a wedge of awareness inserted between the observer and the observed. It unhooks you from the automatic chain of identification. You are not pushing the thought away. You are not analyzing it. You are simply acknowledging its presence, like a naturalist calmly noting the different species of birds that fly by. Ah, there is the blue jay of anxiety, and there is the crow of self-criticism. You are seeing the cloud as a cloud for the first time, instead of getting lost in its fog. Another practice is to widen the lens of your awareness. When a difficult emotion appears, it tends to contract our focus until the emotion is all we can see. Our entire universe becomes that knot of fear in our stomach or that tightness of grief in our chest. The practice here is to intentionally zoom out. While still acknowledging the feeling in your chest, can you also feel the sensation of your feet on the floor? Can you feel the air on your skin? Can you hear the sounds in the room? You begin to realize that the emotion, however powerful, is happening within a much larger field of awareness. You are placing the storm in the context of the vast sky. You are feeling the knot in your stomach, but you are also feeling the calm presence of the hands that rest in your lap. The emotion is no longer your entire reality. It is one event happening within the vast, peaceful space that you are. Do not try to be a better manager of your clouds. Simply realize that you are the sky. This realization is the end of the inner war. The goal is not to have a life with no more storms. Storms are a natural and vital part of life, bringing rain that nourishes the earth. The goal is to no longer live in terror of the rain. The goal is to know yourself as the vast, open space that can hold any weather with grace and equanimity. It is to find the deep, abiding peace of the sky, which is present even in the midst of the most ferocious storm. And now, from this place of stability, from this newfound identity as the sky itself, we are finally equipped to do the deepest work. Because we know we cannot be harmed, we can finally summon the courage to turn and face the darkest, most turbulent thunderclouds we have spent a lifetime avoiding. We can afford to be curious about the parts of our weather we have disowned and banished to the far horizons of our consciousness. Now that we know ourselves as the vast and accepting sky, we are ready to dance with our own shadow. Knowing ourselves as the vast, accepting sky gives us the stability to witness any weather that passes through. We have sat in the stillness and learned to observe the clouds of thought and feeling without being swept away. We have found a place of refuge. From this sanctuary of spacious awareness, we are now equipped to undertake the most courageous leg of the inner journey. We are now ready to turn and face the storms we have spent our entire lives running from. We are ready to meet our own shadow. The shadow is a term for everything within us that we have disowned. It is the repository for all the parts of ourselves that we deemed unacceptable, unlovable, or shameful. Think of your psyche as a house. As a child, you learned very quickly which rooms in the house earned you praise, love, and acceptance. This became the brightly lit living room of your personality, your public persona. Here you displayed your kindness, your intelligence, your compliance, your strengths. But you also learned that other rooms, other parts of you, earned disapproval, punishment, or rejection. Your raw anger, your intense jealousy, your deep vulnerability, your wild creativity, your unapologetic ambition, your untamed sexuality, these were deemed messy, inconvenient, or frightening. And so, one by one, you locked the doors to these rooms, boarded up the windows, and pretended they did not exist. you banished these essential parts of yourself to the cold, dark basement of your unconscious. This basement is your shadow, and we all have one. The creation of a shadow is not a personal failure. It is a universal part of human development, a tragic consequence of our deep need to belong. The great illusion we have been living under is the belief that what is hidden in the dark has no power. The opposite is true. What is repressed does not disappear. It festers. It gathers strength in the darkness, and it runs our lives from behind the scenes. Like a puppeteer hidden from view, the unexamined shadow pulls our strings in ways we do not understand. We see its effects everywhere. Once we know where to look, we see it in projection. The qualities we most adamantly deny in ourselves, we see and despise in others. The person who cannot stand arrogant people is often someone who has deeply repressed their own healthy ambition. The individual who is disgusted by needy or weak people is likely terrified of their own vulnerability. The shadow projects itself outward, turning the world into a screen for our own inner disowned drama. We also see the shadow in acts of self-sabotage. It erupts. The nice person who has swallowed their anger for decades suddenly explodes in a fit of inexplicable rage, destroying a relationship or a career. The hyper-disciplined individual who denies themselves all pleasure suddenly finds themselves in the midst of a destructive binge of food, spending, or substance abuse. This is the shadow, starved for attention, breaking down the basement door and storming through the house, leaving chaos in its wake. And perhaps most pervasively, we feel the shadow as a chronic lack of vitality. The effort it takes to hold these powerful parts of ourselves underwater is immense. It is a constant, draining expenditure of life force. It leaves us feeling inauthentic, numb, bored, and living a half-life, a sanitized and colorless version of the vibrant existence we were meant to embody. The inner conflict, then, is the war between our idealized self and our whole self. We try so desperately to be good, to be spiritual, to live only in the light. We meditate, we affirm, we try to be positive, all the while knowing that the basement is full of rage, lust, and fear. This creates a terrible sense of shame and hypocrisy. We feel like frauds. Our desperate attempt to annihilate the shadow is the very thing that gives it its monstrous, destructive power. We have made an enemy of a vital part of ourselves. Here, we must shift our entire understanding. The goal is not to vanquish the shadow. You cannot cut away a part of your own soul. The goal is to turn on the lights. The goal is to dance with it. The goal is integration. For hidden in the darkness of the shadow are not just monsters. Here lie your greatest, most treasured gifts, in their raw and undeveloped form. The gold is in the dark. In your repressed anger lies your passion, your power to protect what you love, and your ability to set firm, healthy boundaries. In your repressed fear lies your wisdom, your intuition, and your capacity for prudent foresight. In your buried grief lies your ability to love deeply and connect authentically with others. In your disowned selfishness lies your non-negotiable right to self-care and preservation. Your shadow contains your power, your creativity, your authenticity, your wholeness. Healing is the act of walking down into your own basement, not with a sword, but with a lantern, and extending a hand to the exiled parts of yourself, inviting them to come home. Imagine a great tree. We admire its height, its beautiful leaves reaching for the sun, but that tree's reach into the light is only possible because of its equally vast and powerful reach into the darkness of the earth. Its roots, unseen and unglamorous, anchor it, stabilize it, and draw up the raw nutrients from the dark soil that allow it to flourish. Your shadow is your root system. To try and live without it is to try and be a tree with no root, shallow, unstable, and destined to be blown over by the first strong wind. So, how do we begin this sacred dance? How do we approach this work with courage and wisdom? First, we change our attitude from one of fear and judgment to one of radical curiosity and compassion. When a shadow quality makes itself known, a surge of intense envy, a bout of paralyzing fear, our practice is to pause. Instead of the habitual reaction of shame and repression, we turn toward it with a gentle whisper, "I see you. I am willing to listen." The most powerful tool for this is a journaling practice of active imagination. You give the shadow part a voice. You begin a letter, "Dear anger," or "Dear fear," or "Dear shame," and then you ask it questions, writing down whatever answer comes to mind without judgment or censorship. You might ask your jealousy, "What do you admire in that other person? What is it you long for that you feel you do not have?" You might ask your fear, "What terrible thing are you trying to protect me from? What do you need from me to feel safe?" You might ask your anger, "What sacred boundary has been violated? What truth are you here to defend?" In this dialogue, you will discover that these shadow parts are not evil. They are often like young, wounded children using primitive strategies to try and protect you. Your compassion, your willingness to listen, is the lantern that begins to heal their wounds. Another crucial practice is to begin to own your projections. When you find yourself having an intensely negative, judgmental reaction to someone else, pause. After you have allowed yourself to feel the initial charge, ask yourself the brave question, where is the 1% of this quality in me? Where have I, in some small way, acted like this or felt this way and been ashamed of it? This is not to condone harmful behavior in others, but to use your reactions as a mirror to see the disowned parts of yourself. It is advanced, transformative work that takes immense honesty. This dance with the shadow is the journey to becoming whole. It is not about becoming a perfect, sanitized saint living in an eternal, sterile light. It is about becoming a real, messy, and magnificent human being, capable of holding both the light of your divinity and the darkness of your humanity in one compassionate embrace. This is integrity, but this work can feel destabilizing. To consciously feel the rage or grief you have suppressed for decades can feel like inviting a hurricane into your living room. To dance in the heart of such a storm, you need an anchor. You need something solid, something real, something that cannot be moved by the winds of emotion or the torrents of thought. And the most profound, accessible, and truthful anchor you will ever have is waiting for you in this very moment. It is the living, breathing, feeling temple of your own body. The sacred dance with the shadow, the courageous act of turning to face the exiled parts of ourselves, is the work of a spiritual warrior. It is deep, transformative, and at times intensely turbulent. To navigate the storms of repressed anger, grief, and fear without being swept away, we need more than just an idea or a new perspective. We need an anchor. We need something so solid, so real, and so immovably present that it can hold us steady, no matter how fiercely the inner winds blow. This anchor is not found in a book, a philosophy, or a distant heaven. It has been with you all along. It is your body. For most of us in the modern world, we have become profoundly disconnected from this sacred vessel. We treat our bodies like vehicles to transport our heads from one meeting to the next, or like unruly animals to be disciplined, dieted, and forced into submission. We live our lives from the neck up, lost in the labyrinthine corridors of our minds. The mind is a relentless time traveler. It is constantly rehearsing the past, dwelling on old mistakes and hurts, or rocketing into the future, rehearsing potential triumphs and anxiously projecting 1,000 possible disasters. The mind rarely, if ever, rests in the only time that is actually real, the present moment. Your body, however, knows no other time. Your body's address is always here. Its time zone is always now. It cannot be anywhere else. This simple, profound truth holds the key to your liberation. Our estrangement from the body is the source of our deepest anxieties. To be ungrounded in the body is to be a ship without an anchor, tossed about on the chaotic seas of thought. It is to be a tree with no roots, vulnerable to every passing storm. When we refuse to listen to the body's subtle language, its wisdom does not disappear. It simply begins to shout. The unprocessed grief we refuse to feel becomes a chronic, heavy ache in the center of our chest. The anger we swallow down day after day becomes a grinding tension in our jaw or a burning fire in our stomach. The constant, low-grade fear we live with manifests as shallow breathing and permanently clenched shoulders. Our bodies become a living museum of our past pain, and because it feels so uncomfortable, we learn to disconnect even more, numbing ourselves with distraction and living inside a virtual reality of thought. This creates a painful inner conflict. On one hand, we desperately long to feel alive. We crave presence, connection, a sense of being real. We seek it in intense experiences, hoping a jolt of adrenaline or a wave of pleasure will shock us back into our own skin. On the other hand, we are terrified of what we will find if we truly inhabit our bodies. We are afraid of the pain, the tension, the stored history of our wounds. And so we remain in limbo, caught between a fear of the body's past and a longing for the aliveness that can only be found within it. Today, we end this exile. We make a conscious choice to come home. The core message is this: your body is not a hindrance on the spiritual path. It is the path. It is the only temple you will ever truly inhabit. It is the sacred ground where spirit and matter meet. And it is the most powerful, direct, and unfailingly honest tool you have for anchoring yourself in the reality of the present moment. When you are lost in a storm of obsessive, anxious thinking about a mistake you made yesterday, or a presentation you have to give tomorrow, you can, in an instant, drop anchor. You can shift your attention out of the abstract, unreal world of thought and into a concrete, physical sensation. This act immediately pulls you out of the past and future and into the serene harbor of the now. How do we practice this homecoming? It begins with simple, gentle acts of re-inhabitation. Let us try one now. Wherever you are, I invite you to bring your attention to the feeling of your breath. Do not try to change it or control it. Simply become curious about it. Feel the sensation of the air as it enters your nostrils, perhaps cool and dry. Feel the gentle expansion of your belly or chest. Feel the sensation of the air leaving your body, perhaps warm and moist. Follow one full breath, from the beginning of the inhalation to the very end of the exhalation. In the space of that single conscious breath, you were not in the past or the future. You were here. You were present. The breath is the most fundamental anchor you possess. It is always with you, a constant, rhythmic tide connecting you to the present moment. Now, let's drop another anchor. Bring your awareness to the soles of your feet. Without looking at them, simply feel them. Feel the pressure against the floor or the inside of your shoes. Can you feel the texture of your socks? Can you feel the temperature? Wiggle your toes. It is a neurological impossibility to be fully consumed by an anxious thought loop while you are simultaneously and fully engrossed in the physical sensation of your feet on the ground. When you feel your mind spiraling into chaos, remember your feet. They are your direct connection to the earth, your ultimate ground. Feel them, and you will find yourself back in your body, back in the present moment, back in reality. From here, we can practice a more expansive listening. This is the practice of the body scan. You do not need to lie down or close your eyes, though you can. You simply begin by bringing your awareness to your feet, and then slowly, like a warm, gentle wave, you allow your attention to move up through your body. Your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs. You are not judging. You are not trying to fix anything. You are simply noticing. Ah, there is tension in my right thigh. There is a feeling of warmth in my stomach. My shoulders feel tight and raised. You are exploring the inner landscape of your temple with kind, loving attention. You are re-inhabiting forgotten rooms, turning on the lights, and simply making your presence known. This is a profound act of self-love. You are signaling to your body that you are finally ready to listen to its language, not the language of words. but the mother tongue of sensation. You can weave this practice into the fabric of your day. When you wash your hands, don't just think about the next thing you have to do. Feel the exact temperature of the water. Feel the texture of the soap. Hear the sound of the water. This transforms a mundane chore into a 2-minute mindfulness meditation. When you eat, for just the first bite, close your eyes and truly taste it. Experience the explosion of flavor and texture, as if it were the first time. This is how we come alive. We come alive not by seeking more spectacular experiences, but by bringing a more spectacular quality of attention to the experiences we are already having. Your body is your compass, and its needle always points to now. By learning to inhabit it fully, you build a foundation of unshakable presence. You learn to trust its gut feelings, its intuitive wisdom that speaks far more clearly and honestly than the chattering mind. You become a rooted tree, capable of weathering any storm because your anchor goes deep into the soil of reality. And it is from this place of profound grounding that we can safely do the next piece of our work. Now that we are anchored in the real, we can begin to dismantle the unreal. Established in the felt truth of the present moment, we can finally look at the intricate fictions our minds have woven, the stories that have defined our past and limited our future. With our feet firmly planted on the ground of our own being, we are now ready to tear up the old scripts that have kept us playing a small and painful role on the stage of our own lives. Anchored in the living truth of the body, grounded in the reality of the present moment, we now possess the stability to perform the most delicate of operations, the deconstruction of the fictions of the mind. We are, by our very nature, storytelling creatures. It is our primary mechanism for making sense of the chaotic, beautiful, and often painful flow of experience. We do not simply live our lives, we narrate them. From the raw data of our experiences, we weave a story, complete with a protagonist Torsilvesa cast of supporting characters, a plot full of recurring themes, and a presumed, often inevitable, conclusion. This story becomes our identity. And this is where a profound and tragic error occurs. We forget that we are the author and come to believe we are merely the character, trapped in a script we have no power to change. These scripts are written unconsciously, assembled from the scattered pages of our lives. They are authored by the echoes of the inner critic, who whispers the recurring lines of our inadequacy. They are influenced by the distorted reflections from the cracked mirror of society, which dictates the roles we are allowed to play. They are shaped by the dramatic eruptions of our unexamined shadow, which creates subplots of self-sabotage and mystery. Over time, these elements coalesce into a powerful, overarching narrative. Perhaps your script is the story of the one who is never chosen, where every rejection, large or small, serves as further proof of your unworthiness. Perhaps it is the chronicle of the eternal victim, where life is a series of unfair events that happen to you, leaving you powerless. Or maybe it is the tragedy of the one who tries and fails, a script that ensures you approach every new endeavor with a built-in expectation of defeat. Whatever your particular story is, your mind clings to it with ferocious tenacity. Why? Because there is a strange, paradoxical comfort in a familiar narrative, even a painful one. A prison cell is still a home. It is predictable. The walls are solid. You know who you are within that story. You are the victim. You are the unlucky one. This identity, though limiting, provides a framework for understanding the world. It makes life, in its terrifying randomness, feel predictable. The story becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you are unlovable, you will unconsciously act in ways that push love away, thereby proving your story true. The script is not just a description of your life, it becomes the blueprint for its construction. This creates the deepest inner conflict of all. The choice between the familiar agony of your prison and the terrifying freedom of the unknown. To let go of your story is to let go of your identity as you have known it. It is a form of ego death. If you are not the victim, then who are you? If you are not the failure, what might you be capable of? The uncertainty is so vast, so void-like to the mind, that it will often choose to remain with the devil it knows. It will choose the painful certainty of the old script over the boundless, intimidating possibility of a blank page. Here, from this grounded place of presence, we declare an end to this self-imposed imprisonment. The liberating truth is this: you are not the story. You are the storyteller. You are not the character on the page, trapped by the ink of past events. You are the vast, silent, conscious space in which the story is being perceived. The story is a lens, not the reality. It is a map, and an outdated one at that. It is not the territory. An event in your life, a relationship ending, a business failing, an illness is, in itself, neutral. It is a raw fact. It has no inherent meaning. The meaning is projected onto it by the story you choose to wrap around it. For the character in the tragedy of failure, a business failing is the final, damning evidence of their incompetence. For the protagonist in a new story, the saga of the resilient learner, that same event is a chapter of invaluable education, a painful but necessary catalyst for future wisdom. The event is the same. The story determines the suffering. The ultimate freedom is not just to write a better story, but to realize that you can live without a fixed script entirely, responding to the fresh, alive reality of each moment from a place of pure presence. But as a powerful step toward that freedom, we can engage in the conscious act of rewriting our own narrative. We can enter the editing room of the soul. This is a practice I invite you to undertake. Take a journal, a pen, and find a quiet space. On the first page, we will expose the old script. Give your dominant, limiting story a title. Call it what it is. Then, write it out as if you were describing a character in a book. Who is this character? What do they believe about themselves and the world? What are the key events in the plot that prove these beliefs to be true? What is the mood of the story? Tragic? Frustrating? Hopeless? By writing it down, you externalize it. You take it from being an invisible, all-encompassing reality inside your head, and you turn it into an object that you can look at from a distance. You are already separating yourself from it. Now, on the next page, we practice an act of compassionate release. Write a short note of thanks to this old story. Acknowledge its role. Thank you for trying to make sense of the pain. Thank you for creating a predictable world when I felt lost. Your service was an attempt to protect me, and I honor that. Your service is now complete. This is not about fighting or hating the story. That only gives it more power. It is about gently and firmly retiring it, like an old employee who has served their time. Then, on a fresh, clean page, you begin to draft the new script. This is not an exercise in fantasy or toxic positivity. This is an exercise in choosing a more empowering and ultimately more truthful interpretation of your life. Give this new story a title that reflects strength and potential: The Journey of the Creative Soul, or The Unfolding of an Open Heart. In this version, you are the protagonist who learns, who adapts, who possesses an unbreakable core of resilience. Reframe the key events of your life through this new lens. The rejection was not proof of your unworthiness. It was a redirection toward a more authentic path. The failure was not a verdict on your capabilities. It was a masterclass in what doesn't work, providing the very data you need to succeed. This new story should be rooted in the strengths you know you possess, the kindness you have shown, the times you have gotten back up after being knocked down. You are not making things up. You are simply choosing to build your identity around your strength, not your wounds. By burning the old script, you have done something more profound than simply changing your mind. You have severed the tie between the raw data of your past and the painful interpretation you have chained it to. You have separated the wound from the story of how you were wounded. And this leaves us with a new, vital task. When the narrative is stripped away, what remains? The pure, unfiltered energy of the pain itself. We are no longer telling the story of the betrayal. We are simply left with the raw sensation of betrayal's sting in our nervous system. Now, we must learn to approach this raw energy, not with a story, but with presence. We must learn how to touch pain directly, without a narrative, and discover how this most feared of sensations can be transformed from a poison that has defined our past into a potent medicine that can liberate our future. We have bravely walked into the editing room of the soul and thrown our old, limiting scripts into the fire. We have severed the chains of narrative that bound us to a painful past. But what remains when the story is gone? When we are no longer telling ourselves the tale of our wounds, we are left with something far more immediate, more primal, and, at first, more intimidating. We are left with the raw, unfiltered energy of the wound itself, the pure sensation of pain. Our entire civilization, and indeed our biological wiring, is built on a simple premise. Avoid pain. Pain is an error signal, a warning, a sign that something is wrong. From the doctor who prescribes a pill to the countless industries that offer distraction and numbness, the message is unanimous. Pain is the enemy. It is something to be silenced, evaded, or conquered as quickly as possible. We have declared war on a fundamental aspect of the human experience, and this war is the hidden source of our deepest suffering. Here, we must make the most crucial distinction of our entire journey. We must distinguish between pain and suffering. They are not the same thing. Pain is the direct, clean, and unavoidable experience of life. It is the sharp pang of grief when we lose someone we love. It is the hot flush of shame when we make a mistake. It is the dull ache of disappointment when our hopes are dashed. Pain is a pure, transient wave of energy that moves through our nervous system. It is intense, but it is temporary. It is the weather itself. Suffering, on the other hand, is the secondary layer of complication that we mentally construct around the clean pain. Suffering is our resistance to the pain. It is the story we tell about it. This shouldn't be happening. Why me? This is unbearable. It will never end. Suffering is the mental anguish, the emotional turmoil, and the physical tension we create when we fight against reality. It is the argument we have with what is. Pain is the initial, clean wound. Suffering is the infection we introduce by endlessly poking at it, judging it, and resisting it. There is an elegant formula that describes this relationship. Suffering equals pain multiplied by resistance. S equals PXR. This means that your level of suffering is not determined by the intensity of your pain, but by the degree of your resistance to it. If you can bring your resistance down to zero, your suffering becomes zero, even in the face of immense pain. Our work, then, is not the impossible task of creating a life free of pain. It is the liberating and entirely possible task of learning to release our resistance. But our habit is to run. The moment clean pain appears, we initiate a frantic dance of avoidance. We distract ourselves with work, social media, food, or alcohol. We intellectualize our feelings, analyzing them in our heads instead of feeling them in our bodies. We blame others, projecting our pain outward to avoid owning it. This constant flight is utterly exhausting, and it does not work. The pain that is not felt, not honored, not allowed to move through us does not vanish. It gets stored. It lodges itself in our bodies as chronic tension, as unexplained anxiety, as a persistent feeling of depression. Our desperate attempt to avoid the clean pain of a single moment creates the chronic suffering of a lifetime. Today, we stop running. We turn to face the pain, not as an enemy, but as a sacred messenger, a purifying fire, an alchemical agent of profound transformation. We must reimagine pain not as a punishment, but as a grace. It is the alchemist's fire. The ancient alchemists sought to turn base metals like lead into pure gold. To do this, they needed an intensely hot fire. This fire would burn away all the impurities, the dross, leaving only the precious, incorruptible essence. Your pain is this fire. When you summon the courage to sit in its heat without resistance, it begins to burn away everything that is not essentially you. It burns away your ego's defenses, your limiting beliefs, your false identities, and your attachment to how you think things should be. What remains after this purification is the shining, indestructible gold of your true nature. Your resilience, your compassion, your courage. Think of the oyster. A grain of sand, a sharp and painful irritant, gets inside its shell. The oyster cannot eject it. It is trapped with its source of pain. So what does it do? It begins to secrete a beautiful, luminous substance called nacre, covering the painful irritant layer after layer. Over time, the source of its greatest agitation is transformed into its most beautiful creation, a pearl. Your pain is the grain of sand. Your loving, non-resistant presence is the nacre. By meeting your pain with this quality of attention, you can transform it into the pearl of wisdom and compassion. How do we begin this alchemical practice? How do we learn to stay in the fire? It is a practice of embodied presence. The next time you feel a wave of emotional pain, the first step is to pause. Instead of launching into the story, ask the simple question, where do I feel this in my body? Locate the physical epicenter of the emotion. Is it a tightness in your throat? A hollow feeling in your solar plexus? A heavy weight on your shoulders? Get as specific as you can. The second step is to meet the sensation with your breath. Your task is not to eliminate the feeling, but simply to be with it. Breathe into the location of the pain. Imagine your breath is a warm, spacious, compassionate energy that can gently surround the knot of tension. You are not trying to force it to dissolve. You are simply keeping it company, letting it know it is allowed to be here. This act of non-resistant attention is profoundly healing. It signals to your nervous system that you are safe, even in the presence of this intense energy. The third step is to try and drop the labels. For a moment, let go of the words sadness or anger. Instead, experience the phenomenon as pure energy. Is it hot or cold? Is it vibrating, sharp or dull? Does it have a color or a texture? By stripping away the concepts, you separate yourself from the story and allow the energy to be what it is, a temporary physiological event that is moving through you. You will notice that as you watch it in this way without fighting it, the sensation will begin to change on its own. It may intensify, then soften. It may move. It will, eventually, pass. You are learning to surf the waves of emotion instead of being drowned by them. This is the path of the spiritual warrior. It is the discovery that your greatest strength is not found in your ability to avoid pain, but in your capacity to hold it with love. You are discovering that you are bigger than any emotion, bigger than any pain. You are the vast, silent space that can contain it all. This profound realization that our suffering is born not from our pain but from our resistance to it naturally leads us to a deeper, more fundamental question. What is the source of this resistance? Why do we fight so hard against the reality of what is? At its root, our resistance springs from a deep-seated, mostly unconscious belief. The belief that we should be able to control life, to bend it to our will, and to surgically remove the parts we do not like. And so, our journey now takes us to the heart of the ego's greatest project. We must examine the most cherished and exhausting illusion of all, the illusion of control. We have stood in the heart of the alchemist's fire, discovering that our suffering is born not from pain itself, but from our resistance to it. This realization is a doorway to a much deeper inquiry. It forces us to ask, what is the nature of this resistance? Where does it come from? At its very core, our resistance to what is the friction generated by the ego's most fundamental and exhausting project, the relentless attempt to control the uncontrollable. The human ego, that sense of a separate I, sees itself as a fragile entity in a chaotic and threatening universe. Its prime directive is survival, and its primary strategy is control. It believes that if it can just manage, predict, analyze, and manipulate all the variables of life, it can create a fortress of safety and guarantee a happy outcome. And so we live our lives with our hands clenched in a white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel, believing our constant, anxious vigilance is the only thing preventing a catastrophic crash. We try to control what others think of us. We try to control the feelings and decisions of our partners and children. We try to control the timing of our career advancements, the outcome of our creative projects, the very unfolding of the future itself. This is a grand and tragic illusion. It is the project of a frantic, tiny general trying to command the tides of the ocean. The energy we expend in this futile effort is staggering. We create elaborate 5-year plans, only to have them rendered obsolete by a single phone call. We exhaust ourselves trying to make someone love us, only to suffocate the very affection we seek with our grasping need. We sacrifice the living reality of the present moment at the altar of worry, obsessing over a future that will never arrive in the way our minds have rehearsed. The result of this project is not the safety and security we crave. The result is chronic anxiety, frustration, and a deep, pervasive burnout. We are exhausted from the impossible job of trying to be God within the tiny kingdom of our own lives. The inner conflict is immense. On one hand, we feel the soul-crushing weight of this constant effort. We feel the tension in our bodies, the weariness in our spirit. On the other hand, the thought of letting go is utterly terrifying. The ego screams that to release control is to surrender, to admit defeat, to invite chaos and disaster. If I stop worrying, who will? If I stop managing every detail, everything will fall apart. We have come to believe that our desperate, anxious striving is the very glue holding our world together. And so we are caught, trapped between the exhaustion of holding on and the terror of letting go. Here, we must introduce a new vision of life and our relationship to it. Life is not a machine to be operated or a problem to be solved. Life is a great and powerful river. For years, you have been standing on the bank, trying to command the river to flow in a different direction. Or perhaps you have been in a small boat, paddling with all your might directly against the current, wondering why you are so tired and making so little progress. You have been trying to control the river. This is the path of struggle. There is another way. It is the way of the master navigator. The master navigator does not try to control the river. They know that would be absurd. Instead, they respect the river. They study its currents, they read its eddies, they notice where the rocks are hidden beneath the surface. They do not fight the river's power. They align with it. They use the river's own immense energy to carry their boat forward, skillfully steering to navigate the challenges along the way. This is not passivity. It is not giving up and letting your boat be smashed against the rocks. It is an act of supreme intelligence, skill, and trust. It is the wisdom to stop wasting your finite energy on fighting reality, and to instead use that energy to dance with reality. Think of a master surfer. They do not command the wave. They do not resist the power of the ocean. They feel the wave. They become one with its rhythm, and then they dance upon its surface with grace and joy. They are engaged in an active, intelligent surrender to a power far greater than their own. This is the model for a life of ease and effectiveness. We must learn to surf the waves of life, not try to flatten the ocean. So how do we loosen this deep-seated, white-knuckled grip of control? We begin with small, conscious acts of surrender. The habit of control is a deep groove in our psyche. We cannot erase it overnight. We must gently train ourselves in the art of letting go. Start with what I call micro-releases. In low-stakes situations, consciously choose to let go. When making plans with a friend, let them choose the place and time, releasing your need to optimize the evening. When working on a team project, trust a colleague to complete their task in their own way without your constant oversight, even if it is not the way you would do it. When you feel the familiar churn of worry about something beyond your immediate influence, set a timer for 10 minutes and give yourself the gift of not trying to solve it in your head for that brief period. A more profound practice is to shift your focus from the outcome to the effort. You cannot, in truth, control the result of any action. The outcome of a job interview, a creative project, or a difficult conversation is dependent on a million variables beyond your command. The only thing you can truly control is the quality of the energy and intention you bring to your own actions. So, pour your heart into your effort. Prepare for the interview with excellence. Create your art with integrity and passion. Speak your truth with kindness. Do your part to the absolute best of your ability. And then, as an explicit, conscious act, release your attachment to the result. Plant the seed, water the soil, provide the sunlight, and then let go. You must allow the universe its part in the process. Trust that the right outcome will unfold, even if it's not the one your ego had planned. Finally, learn to embrace the power of the words, "I don't know." We live in a culture that prizes certainty. We feel a constant pressure to have a plan, to have an opinion, to know what's next. To admit "I don't know" feels like a weakness. In truth, it is a profound strength. It is an act of humility that releases you from the terrible burden of having to be omniscient. It opens a space for genuine curiosity, for intuition to arise, for unexpected and creative solutions to appear. The mind wants to close the loop with a definite answer. Wisdom is found in the courage to remain in the open, spacious uncertainty of the question. When you cease your struggle against the river of life, you do not lose power, you gain it. All the energy you were wasting in paddling upstream, in trying to dam the current, is now yours to use for skillful navigation. You become more responsive, more intuitive, more adaptable. You stop trying to force life to fit your rigid plans, and instead learn to see the opportunities that are presenting themselves in the here and now. You have moved from a state of contracted, fearful resistance to one of open, curious, and trusting allowance. This inner shift, from control to trust, does more than just make you feel better. It has a profound and unseen effect on the world around you. It changes your energetic signature. It alters the very frequency you are broadcasting into the unified field of existence. When we stop trying to impose our dissonant, struggling will upon the universe, and instead learn to flow with its intelligent currents, something magical begins to happen. We become a harmonious note in the grand symphony. Our inner state begins to resonate with life in a completely new way. We have let go of the need to control, and in doing so, we have discovered how to truly create. We have released our desperate, white-knuckled grip on the wheel of life. We have stopped paddling against the current and have begun to learn the art of flowing with the great river of existence. This inner shift from control to trust, from resistance to allowance, is more than just a psychological adjustment. It is a fundamental change in your entire energetic being. It changes the very signal you are broadcasting into the universe. For most of your life, you have likely seen yourself as a receiver, a passive entity subject to the whims of an external world. You have felt like a radio, forced to listen to whatever station the universe decided to play. Sometimes it was a beautiful melody, but often it was a broadcast of static, struggle, and bad news. Today, we must dismantle this illusion entirely. You are not merely a receiver. You are, and have always been, a powerful broadcasting station. Your entire being, every thought, every belief, and most importantly, every emotion is constantly generating a vibrational frequency, a signal that emanates from you into the unified field of life. And the experiences, people, and circumstances that show up in your life are a direct, unerring feedback to the signal you are broadcasting. This is not a New Age fantasy. It is a principle of resonant reality. Everything in the universe is energy in a state of vibration. Your thoughts are flashes of energy. Your emotions are more potent, concentrated fields of energy. You can feel this directly. Think of the emotional state of fear or shame. It has a low, dense, contracted quality. You feel heavy, small, and closed off. Now, think of the state of genuine joy or deep love. It has a high, light, and expansive quality. You feel open, boundless, and full. These are not just subjective descriptions. They are your direct perception of different vibrational frequencies. The dominant emotional state that you inhabit most of the time, your mood, your attitude, your inner climatize, your home frequency. This is the core of the signal you are sending out, day in and day out. And this is the source of one of the most painful conflicts in human experience. Your mind says, I want to find a loving, supportive partner, but your emotional broadcast, tuned by past hurts and a belief in your own unworthiness, is a signal of, I'm not lovable, and I'm afraid of being abandoned. The universe, in its impersonal wisdom, does not respond to the words you speak or the wishes you make. It responds to the truth of your vibration. It responds to the signal you are being. The mind, the ego, sends out a verbal request, while the heart, the body, sends out a contradictory vibrational reality. Your conscious mind says, I want abundance and prosperity, but your home frequency, conditioned by years of scarcity thinking, is broadcasting a powerful signal of lack, not enough, and it's hard. This is why positive thinking alone can feel like a frustrating and fruitless exercise. You can stand in front of a mirror and repeat affirmations of abundance for an hour, but if your body is clenched in the feeling of lack, the universe hears only the lack. You are broadcasting disbelief in your own words. You are tuned to the frequency of 98.7 FM, lack, while asking to hear the music from 105.3 FM, abundance. It is an impossibility. The law of resonance states that like attracts like. A particular frequency can only perceive, interact with, and draw toward it circumstances that are a vibrational match. This understanding changes everything. It reframes the so-called law of attraction from a childish game of wishing and getting into a mature spiritual practice of being and attracting. The work is not to beg the universe to give you what you want. The work is to become an energetic match for the reality you desire to experience. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. Imagine two tuning forks. One is vibrating at the frequency of the note C. The other, silent one, is also tuned to C. If you bring the vibrating fork near the silent one will begin to vibrate and sing the same note, energized by the resonance. But if you bring the vibrating C fork near a fork tuned to G, nothing will happen. There is no resonance. You must become the vibrating tuning fork for the experiences you wish to call into your life. To attract love, you must first find a way to broadcast the frequency of love by cultivating self-love, by appreciating the love already in your life, by being a loving presence. To attract joy, you must find ways to tune yourself to the frequency of joy, even in small ways, first. So, how do you consciously change your broadcast? How do you become the tuning fork? You do it by intentionally cultivating the emotional states you wish to inhabit. The first and most powerful practice is gratitude. Gratitude is the ultimate frequency shifter. It is neurologically impossible to feel both fear and gratitude at the same time. It is impossible to feel both lack and gratitude at the same time. When you are in a state of genuine appreciation, you are broadcasting a signal of, I have enough, I am supported, life is good. This is the frequency of abundance. You can start small. Right now, feel gratitude for the air you are breathing, this invisible gift that has sustained you every moment of your life. Feel gratitude for the chair that is supporting you. Feel gratitude for your sense of hearing that is allowing you to receive these words. Start a daily practice of writing down 3 things you are grateful for. This practice, over time, will rewire your brain and retune your energetic home base from lack to sufficiency. The second practice is the conscious cultivation of joy, not as a reward for achievement, but for its own sake. Make a list of things that bring you a simple, uncomplicated feeling of delight. Is it a particular song that makes you want to dance? Is it the feeling of sunshine on your skin? Is it looking at pictures of beautiful places? Is it playing with an animal? Your joy is not frivolous. It is a sacred responsibility. It is you tuning your instrument. Schedule these joy appointments into your life with the same seriousness you would a business meeting. By deliberately marinating in the feeling of joy, you make that frequency more familiar and accessible to your system. A third, more advanced practice is to feel it real. If you desire to feel more peace in your life, do not just think about peace. Ask yourself, what would it feel like in my body right now if I were already a completely peaceful person? Imagine a scenario that implies you have achieved this state. Perhaps you see yourself responding calmly to a situation that would have previously triggered you. But do not focus on the visual. Focus on the feeling in your body. Would your shoulders relax? Would your breath deepen? Would your stomach unclench? Inhabit that physical sensation of peace now. By generating the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you are becoming the tuning fork. You are broadcasting the signal of your desired reality before it has manifested, which is the very mechanism that calls it forth. This is the great shift from a passive to an active orientation toward life. You are not a victim of a random universe. You are a powerful creator, shaping reality with the frequency of your being. You are not a cork tossed on the waves. You are the wave itself. This is an immense responsibility, but it is also the source of your ultimate freedom. When you truly grasp that you are the broadcasting station, that your energetic state is the signal that is constantly shaping your experience of reality, you can no longer see yourself as a powerless character reading lines from a pre-written script. You begin to understand that the script itself is responding to the melody you are playing. This is the moment of your graduation. It is the final, profound, and world-altering shift from seeing yourself as a victim of your life to realizing that you are, and always have been, its conscious creator. We stand now at a profound threshold. We have come to understand that we are the energetic broadcasting station, that the quality of our inner world is the signal that shapes our outer reality. This realization is the key that unlocks the door to a prison we never knew we were in. It is the moment we cease to be the victim and consciously step into the role of the creator. For most of us, the victim mentality is our default operating system. It is a subtle and pervasive lens through which we view the world. It is the narrative that life happens to us. We are at the mercy of external forces, our childhood, our genetics, the economy, our boss, our partner, the government, sheer bad luck. In this story, we are the protagonist, yes, but a tragic unie pawn on a grand chessboard, moved by powerful invisible hands. We are powerless. Our happiness and our misery are determined by factors outside of our control. This mindset is seductive because it offers a powerful, albeit poisonous payoff. It absolves us of responsibility. If our unhappiness is someone else's fault, it's because of our past or because of them, then we don't have to undertake the difficult, often terrifying work of looking within and changing ourselves. There is a temporary, righteous comfort in blame. It can even garner sympathy and attention from others, reinforcing our story. It provides a simple, ready-made explanation for why our life is the way it is. It is far easier to complain about a difficult job than it is to face the inner fear that prevents us from leaving it. But the price for this comfort is catastrophic. The price for being not at fault is your power. Every time you point a finger of blame, you are siphoning your own creative life force and handing it over to the person or circumstance you are blaming. You are saying, "You have the power over my emotional state. You are the author of my experience." To the exact degree that you blame the outside world, you render yourself helpless to change your inside world. You become a leaf in the wind, and you forfeit your right to choose your destination. The inner conflict is one of short-term satisfaction versus long-term, soul-crushing impotence. The momentary rush of being right and making someone else wrong is inevitably followed by the cold, hollow feeling of being trapped. After the anger at the external force subsides, we are left alone in our smallness, in our powerlessness, waiting for the world to change so that we can finally be happy. and we can wait a lifetime. Today, this wait is over. The shift from victim to creator begins with the adoption of a single radical principle, the principle of 100% responsibility. This is, without question, the most challenging and the most liberating idea we will explore. First, it is crucial to understand what this does not mean. Taking 100% responsibility does not mean taking the blame. It is not about fault. If you have experienced trauma, abuse, or injustice, it is not about saying it was your fault. That would be cruel and untrue. Bad things happen to good people. The world is not always fair. What 100% responsibility does mean is taking complete and total ownership of your response to everything that happens in your life. While you may not control the events that come your way, you have absolute, God-given sovereignty over the one thing that truly matters. Your inner world, you and you alone, are in charge of the meaning you assign to events. You are in charge of your attitude. You are in charge of the emotional state you choose to cultivate. You are in charge of the actions you take next. This is the seat of your infinite power. The world can present you with a set of circumstances, but it can never, ever dictate your response unless you abdicate that power. This is the shift from what life does to me to what I do with what life gives me. You stop being a character in the play and you become the director. You stop being a passive pawn and you become the grandmaster, contemplating your next powerful move. How do we begin to embody this creator consciousness in our daily lives? The first and most immediate practice is to transform your language, for your language shapes your reality. Begin to notice the subtle ways you give your power away with your words. Catch yourself when you say, "My boss made me so angry." Is that true? Did he have the power to inject anger into your veins? Or did you choose to activate a pattern of anger in response to his words or actions? A more responsible and more powerful reframe would be, "I am feeling a great deal of anger in response to what my boss said." This small shift in language returns the locus of power to where it belongs, within you. The most transformative linguistic shift is moving from the victim's question to the creator's question. The victim's question is always, "Why is this happening to me?" It is a question that implies powerlessness and seeks to assign blame. The creator asks a different set of questions. What is this situation here to teach me? What quality is this asking me to develop in myself? How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, or more compassionate? What is my most empowered response right now? These questions instantly shift you from a state of passive reaction to a state of active, creative engagement with life. A second practice is to clarify your circle of control. Imagine two concentric circles. In the large outer circle, write down all the elements of a challenging situation that you cannot control. Another person's mood, their decisions, past events, the weather, the economy. Now, in the small inner circle, write down the things you have absolute control over. Your breath, your attitude, your perspective, whether you choose to be kind. The next small action you will take. The practice of a creator is to consciously withdraw all of your precious energy and attention from the outer circle, the circle of futile concern, and to focus it 100% on the inner circle, the circle of your power. Finally, you must learn to create from the inside out. The victim waits for the world to give them what they want. They wait for someone to come along and make them feel loved, safe, and worthy. The creator knows this is a fool's errand. The creator understands that the outer world is a reflection of the inner. Therefore, if you want to experience more love in your life, you must become a more loving person. Generate that frequency first. If you want to experience more appreciation, start by giving more genuine appreciation to others. You become the source of that which you seek. You are no longer a beggar with a bowl, hoping for a handout from the universe. You are a sun, radiating the very qualities you wish to see reflected back to you. This is the great reclamation of your divine inheritance. you are taking the pen back into your own hands. You are walking up to the canvas of your life, realizing you are not just the paint, but the painter, holding the brush. This does not mean you will now paint a life free of challenge or complexity. A masterpiece is not made of only bright, happy colors. It requires contrast, shadow, and depth to have any meaning. As the conscious creator of your experience, you do not naively expect to plant a garden that exists in a state of perpetual summer bloom. This new, deeper wisdom invites you to work with the fundamental rhythms of existence, not against them. You are now ready to honor the natural cycles of life, the inevitable and necessary seasons of growth, of harvest, of decay, and of quiet rebirth. As the conscious creator of your reality, you have taken the pen back from the hands of fate. You understand that your power lies not in controlling the world, but in authoring your response to it. But a creator who works without understanding their materials is merely a novice. A wise creator learns to work with the fundamental nature of reality, not against it. And the most fundamental truth of nature is this: it does not move in a straight line. It moves in cycles. Our modern culture is pathologically obsessed with linear, upward progress. We are taught that life should be a constant trajectory of more, better, faster. We must always be growing, achieving, producing, and expanding. This is the myth of perpetual summer. We idolize the summer of life, the season of high energy, of vibrant social engagement, of peak productivity and external success. We celebrate the long, bright days and expect them to last forever. But nature knows a deeper truth. Life breathes. It has an inhalation and an exhalation. After the expansion of summer comes the contraction of autumn and the deep rest of winter. The tide rises, but it must also fall. The moon waxes to its full brilliant peak, but it must also wane into the silent, fertile darkness of the new moon. To expect a life of perpetual summer is as foolish as expecting a day with no night, or a breath with no exhalation. And yet, this is the expectation we place upon our inner lives, and it is the source of profound shame and exhaustion. When we inevitably enter a period of lower energy, of introspection, of sadness, or of feeling lost, we believe something has gone terribly wrong. We diagnose ourselves as unmotivated, depressed, or lazy. We see our inner winter not as a necessary season of the soul, but as a personal failure to be fixed as quickly as possible. We fight it. We try to force blossoms from a frozen branch to generate summer's heat through sheer force of will. We push ourselves to socialize when our spirit craves solitude. We demand creative output when our inner well is dry and needs time to be replenished. This internal war against our own natural rhythm is a battle we can never win. It only leads to a deeper, more prolonged winter and a deeper sense of being flawed. Today, we lay down our arms. We step out of the cult of linear progress and into the cyclical wisdom of the seasons. Your inner life, like the earth itself, has 4 distinct seasons, each with its own purpose, its own beauty, and its own sacred gifts. Learning to recognize and honor your current season is the key to a sustainable, authentic, and truly productive life. Let us speak of the inner winter. This is the most feared and misunderstood season. In a culture that worships action, winter appears as a void. But it is not death. It is the great restorative dream time. It is the fallow field, resting and gathering nutrients deep beneath the frozen surface. It is a time for turning inward, for deep rest, for healing the wounds of the previous cycle. It is the quiet cocoon where the transformation for the next stage of life is taking place. The gift of winter is not external achievement, but deep restoration, soulful reflection, and the quiet gestation of a new vision. To honor your winter is to give yourself permission to be still, to say no, and to trust that in the darkness, a vital process is unfolding. After the deep rest of winter, the first signs of life emerge. This is your inner spring. The energy is one of rebirth, but it is tender, tentative, and vulnerable. It is the time of the new moon, of the small green shoot pushing up through the soil. It is a season for planting new seeds, for starting a new course of study, for beginning a new health regimen, for brainstorming new ideas. It is not a time for grand harvests, but for gentle beginnings. It requires patience and nurturing. You would not scream at a seedling to grow faster. You must offer your own springtime ideas this same gentle patience. The gift of spring is potential, hope, and the courage to begin again. As the seeds of spring take root, the energy builds toward its peak expression. This is the glorious high sun of your inner summer. This is the season of the full moon, of maximum external energy and visibility. It is a time for doing, for collaborating, for celebrating, for being seen. The projects you began in the spring now come into their full flowering. It is a time for major work projects, for launching businesses, for hosting parties, for traveling and engaging fully with the world. You are strong, resilient, and your energy seems boundless. The gift of summer is expression, connection, and the joy of seeing your creations come to life in the world. But no summer can last forever. As the peak energy passes, the air begins to cool and change. This is your inner autumn. The energy begins to turn inward once more. Autumn is a season of duality. First, it is the time of the harvest. You look back at your spring and summer, and you gather the fruits of your labor. You acknowledge what you have accomplished, you celebrate your successes, and you integrate the lessons you have learned. But just as importantly, autumn is the season of release. As the trees shed their leaves, recognizing they can no longer sustain them through the coming cold, you too must let go. You release the projects that are complete. You let go of the relationships that no longer nourish you. You shed the old identities that are now too small. This act of letting go is essential. It creates the space and conserves the energy needed for the deep rest of a healthy winter. The gift of autumn is gratitude, completion, and the liberating power of release. So how do we live in harmony with this inner rhythm? The first step is to become a season watcher. You must cultivate the skill of inner listening. At any given time, ask yourself, what is my energy truly like? Do I feel expansive and social, like summer? Or do I feel a deep pull towards solitude and rest, like winter? Do I feel the hopeful, tentative energy of new ideas, like spring? Or do I feel a sense of completion and a desire to shed the unnecessary, like autumn? Keep a simple journal. Notice your own patterns. Does your energy align with the moon's cycle, with the outer seasons? You are a unique ecosystem. Learn your own climate. The second step is to give yourself unconditional permission to be in the season you are in. This is a radical act of self-love in a world that demands a perpetual summer. If you recognize you are in winter, you must fiercely protect your right to rest. Cancel the social engagement. Take a day off. Sleep more. Read. Do nothing. Trust that your stillness is productive. If you are in spring, give yourself permission to be a messy beginner, to experiment without needing immediate results. If you are in autumn, give yourself permission to end things, to say goodbye, and to celebrate your harvest without immediately rushing to the next thing. By aligning your actions with your authentic energy, you stop fighting yourself. You begin to work with your own nature, not against it. This brings a sense of ease, grace, and a far deeper, more sustainable effectiveness to your life. You are no longer trying to force nature's hand. You are flowing with its profound and intelligent rhythm. This deep acceptance of your own inner season, whatever it may be, is a revolutionary act of authenticity. It frees you from the exhausting performance of pretending to be somewhere you are not. When you give yourself full permission to be in your quiet winter, you no longer feel the need to wear the mask of a bubbly summer person. When you honor the vulnerability of your spring, you are not ashamed of your uncertainty. This honoring of your inner truth is the very foundation of an authentic life. It gives you the strength and the courage to finally drop the masks, to stop the performance, and to show up in the world, at last, as you truly are. By learning to honor the natural rhythm of our inner seasons, we take a monumental step toward self-acceptance. We give ourselves permission to be in our quiet winter, our tender spring, our vibrant summer, or our contemplative autumn. This practice of honoring our inner truth is the fertile ground from which the flower of authenticity begins to grow. It gives us the courage to address one of the most exhausting and pervasive performances of human life: the wearing of the mask. From a very early age, we learn that the world is a complex and often judgmental place. We learn that certain parts of our true self are met with praise and acceptance, while other parts are met with disapproval, ridicule, or punishment. And so, we begin to craft a mask. We are not taught to do this. We do it instinctively, as an act of emotional survival. We fashion a mask of agreeableness to avoid conflict. We construct a mask of competence and perfectionism to hide our insecurities. We wear a mask of cool indifference to protect our tender, vulnerable heart. We don't just have one mask, we have an entire collection, one for every occasion. There is the professional mask we wear at work, the dutiful mask we wear with our family, the fun-loving mask we wear with our friends. We become master actors on the stage of our own lives, switching between these roles so seamlessly that we often forget we are performing at all. And herein lies the greatest tragedy. With enough time, we can forget our own true face entirely, believing the mask to be who we really are. We must first approach this topic with compassion. The mask was created for a reason. It was a shield, a suit of armor forged to protect the soft, vulnerable, authentic self from a world that felt unsafe. It was a brilliant strategy developed by a younger version of you to navigate a difficult landscape. But a strategy that serves us in childhood often becomes a prison in adulthood. The very armor that once protected you has now become a cage, cutting you off from the genuine experience of life. The cost of this lifelong performance is immense, though it is often paid in a currency we do not consciously track: our own life force. It takes a colossal amount of energy to maintain a facade. The constant self-monitoring, the calculating of the right thing to say or do, the suppression of authentic emotional responses, the low-grade, persistent fear of being found out, all of this drains our inner reservoir, leaving us feeling chronically fatigued and burned out, especially after social interactions. Even more painful is the profound loneliness of the mask. We wear it in the hopes of winning love, approval, and connection. But when someone loves your mask, you do not feel loved. The praise, the compliments, the affection, they never penetrate the armor. They land on the false surface, and the true self, hidden deep within, feels utterly unseen. This is the terrible paradox of the mask. It creates the very isolation it was designed to prevent. It leaves us feeling achingly alone in a room full of people who may adore the character we are playing. Furthermore, the mask severs our connection to our own intuition. We cannot trust our gut feelings when we are constantly filtering our words and actions through the question, what do they want me to be? We lose touch with our own inner compass, and with it, our ability to navigate life from a place of truth. The inner conflict, then, is between the soul's deep, desperate yearning to be seen and known for who we truly are, and the ego's mortal terror of what might happen if we were. If they knew the real me, the ego whispers, if they saw my fear, my flaws, my messy humanity, they would reject me. They would leave. This core fear, the fear of rejection, is the glue that keeps the mask fastened so tightly to our face. We are caught between the slow suffocation of inauthenticity and the acute fear of revealing our naked self to the world. The path to freedom, to vitality, and to true connection is the courageous act of unmasking. This is the practice of authenticity. Authenticity is not an excuse for thoughtless or cruel behavior. It is not a license to dump your unfiltered emotions onto others. It is simply the cessation of performance. It is the gentle, conscious alignment of your inner experience with your outer expression. It is allowing what is true for you to be seen, honestly and kindly. When you begin to take off the mask, a miraculous thing happens. All of the energy that was being poured into upholding the facade is liberated. It is returned to you. This results in a tremendous surge of vitality, creativity, and presence. You feel lighter, as if you have set down a great, invisible weight you didn't even know you were carrying. And while you may fear that being your true self will push people away, the opposite is true. Yes, authenticity may repel those who were only in a relationship with your mask hand. This is a necessary and healthy purification, but it will act as a powerful magnet for those who resonate with your true frequency. Authenticity is the only foundation upon which genuine, soulful connection can be built. So how do we begin this gentle unmasking? It is not a dramatic single act, but a series of small, brave choices made day after day. You start in safe territory. Choose a trusted friend, a loving partner, or a therapist, someone with whom you already feel a degree of safety. The next time they ask you how you are, instead of the automatic, "I'm fine, thanks," try sharing one small, real feeling. You know, "I'm actually feeling a little overwhelmed today." Or, "I'm feeling really hopeful about something." Notice the feeling in your body as you let one tiny piece of your true self be seen. Practice expressing a gentle preference. So much of our performance is about being agreeable and accommodating. The next time a friend suggests a movie you have no interest in seeing, instead of automatically agreeing, try a gentle, honest response. "Thank you for thinking of me. That one isn't really my cup of tea, but I'd love to do something else with you soon." You are honoring your own truth without being demanding or unkind. One of the most powerful acts of authenticity is learning to wield a clean no. When you are invited to something that you feel in your bones, you do not have the energy or desire for. Practice declining without a long, fabricated list of excuses. A simple, "Thank you so much for the invitation, but I won't be able to make it," is a profound statement of self-respect. It honors the truth of your own capacity. Pay attention to your physical expression. Are you dressing in a way that feels like you, or are you wearing a costume designed to fit in with a certain group? Your clothing, your hairstyle, the way you decorate your space. These are all opportunities to align your outer world with your inner truth. Making a small, conscious choice in this area can be a fun and empowering way to practice. You have been carrying a heavy, rigid suit of armor for a very long time, believing it was necessary to protect a fragile flower within. But the irony is that the immense weight of the armor is the very thing that has been crushing the flower. Taking it off, piece by piece, is the act of letting the flower breathe, letting it feel the sun, letting it finally be seen in its unique and imperfect beauty. As you remove the hard, confining shell, you may initially feel vulnerable, even weak. Our old definition of strength was tied to this idea of being impenetrable, invulnerable, and hard. But we are about to discover that this was a brittle and fragile kind of strength. True strength, we will learn, is not found in rigidity. It is found in flexibility, in resilience, and in the profound capacity to bend without ever breaking. As we gently remove the heavy, rigid armor of our persona, as we give ourselves permission to be authentic, we may initially feel exposed and vulnerable. Our old definition of strength was forged in the same fire as our masks. It was a strength defined by hardness, by impenetrability, by a stoic refusal to show pain. We were taught to admire the mighty oak tree, which stands proud and unmoving, resisting the storm with its sheer brute force. We tried to be this oak, believing that strength meant never bending, never yielding, never breaking. This model of strength is a tragic illusion, and it has cost us dearly. In our effort to be the unbendable oak, we are forced to suppress the natural, flowing weather of our inner world. We equate tears with weakness, fear with failure, and sadness with a lack of resolve. We clench our jaws, square our shoulders, and tell the world, and ourselves, "I'm fine," while inside, a storm of unfelt emotion rages. This suppression does not make us strong, it makes us brittle. An oak tree can withstand 100 storms, But when a wind comes that is stronger than its rigid defenses, it does not bend. It snaps. Its thickest branches, or even its ancient trunk, crack and fall in a catastrophic display of failure. So too, the person who lives by the creed of the oak eventually meets a life storm that shatters their rigid defenses, leading to a sudden and spectacular breakdown that surprises everyone who only saw the strong facade. The inner conflict of this model is exhausting. It is the constant, draining performance of being the strong one. We stand tall, projecting an image of unshakable competence, while internally we feel the strain. We sense the hairline fractures forming in our resolve. We live with the persistent, low-grade fear that we are just one more pressure away from our breaking point. We are terrified of letting the cracks show, believing that to bend would be the ultimate admission of defeat. Today, we abandon this brittle and unsustainable model of strength and turn to nature for a wiser, more resilient example. Look not to the oak, but to the humble reed or the slender bamboo. When the great wind blows, the reed does not stand in rigid opposition. It does not waste its energy fighting a force so much greater than itself. It practices a form of supreme intelligence. It yields. It surrenders. It bows down, sometimes so low that its tip touches the very earth it grows from. To an outside observer, it might look defeated, weak, utterly vanquished by the storm. But the moment the wind subsides, the reed effortlessly springs back up, unharmed, flexible, and fully intact. This is the new paradigm. True strength is not rigidity, it is flexibility. It is not the capacity to never be brought low, but the resilience to always rise again. Think of water, the softest and most yielding of all substances. It does not fight the rock, it flows around it. And yet, with persistent, gentle flow, that same soft water can wear away the hardest stone. Its power is not in hardness, but in its relentless adaptability and persistence. This is the strength we now choose to cultivate, a supple, responsive, and ultimately indestructible resilience. How do we begin to practice this reed-like way of being? It begins by unlearning our old, harsh definitions and embracing a new, compassionate relationship with ourselves. First, you must give yourself permission to have days when you are not okay. You are a human being, a complex ecosystem of thoughts, emotions, and physical energies, not a machine. You will have days of sadness, of confusion, of low energy. The oak tree model demands that you ignore this and push through. The reed-like way is to honor it, to acknowledge, today I am not at my best. Today I feel sad. This is not a complaint. It is an honest weather report from your inner world. This simple act of telling the truth stops the performance of false strength and allows you to respond to your own needs with compassion. Next, you must reframe your understanding of sensitivity. In the oak tree paradigm, sensitivity is a liability, a weakness to be overcome. In the wisdom of the reed, sensitivity is a superpower. The reed can bend so gracefully because it can feel the slightest shift in the wind. Your sensitivity is a highly tuned guidance system. It gives you more information about your environment, about other people, about your own inner state. It is the source of empathy, intuition, creativity, and a deep appreciation for beauty. Your task is not to toughen up and dull this magnificent faculty. Your task is to learn how to manage the flow of information so that you are not overwhelmed, to honor your need for quiet and restoration, and to trust the subtle wisdom your sensitivity provides. This leads to the practice of the strategic no. The oak tree, in its rigidity, has only two options: stand or break. The reed has infinite options, and saying no is a form of intelligent bending. When you say no to a request or an obligation that you do not have the energy for, you are not being weak or selfish. You are feeling the direction of the wind to your own capacity and priorities and choosing to conserve your strength. You are bending with the truth of your present moment reality rather than rigidly resisting it. This preserves your vitality for the things that truly matter. And finally, you must shift your focus from preventing failure to mastering recovery. The oak fears the fall above all else. The reed accepts the fall as part of the dance. True strength is not measured by whether or not you get knocked down, but by the grace and compassion with which you get back up. When you have a setback, what is your protocol? Do you engage in harsh self-criticism, berating yourself for your weakness? That is the way of the oak, adding injury to injury. The way of the reed is to offer yourself immediate kindness, to assess the situation without blame, to give yourself the rest and care you need, and to learn the lesson from the fall so that you can rise again, perhaps a little wiser, a little more flexible than before. This is a more feminine, more intelligent, and ultimately far more powerful way of being. It is the strength of water, of bamboo, of the humble reed. It is a strength rooted in presence, honesty, and a deep trust in your own capacity to adapt and recover. As we embody this supple, responsive strength, our entire relationship with life begins to change. We no longer see life's challenges as personal attacks or punishments to be rigidly resisted. Instead, with our newfound flexibility, we are able to perceive a more neutral, intelligent, and impersonal feedback system at play. We begin to understand that every event, every interaction, every choice creates a ripple in the great river of life. We are no longer fighting the ripples. We are learning to understand their source. We are now ready to explore, with wisdom and grace, the elegant and inescapable law of cause and effect. We are ready to understand karma. With the supple, resilient strength of the reed, we have learned to bend with the winds of life rather than rigidly resisting them. This new flexibility allows us to perceive the world not as a series of random attacks to be endured, but as an intelligent and orderly flow of cause and effect. This brings us face to face with one of the most powerful and most profoundly misunderstood concepts on the spiritual path, the law of karma. For many, the word karma is heavy with a sense of dread. It conjures images of a cosmic courtroom, a celestial ledger book where all our misdeeds are recorded, and a stern, invisible judge who doles out punishments and rewards. In this view, life becomes a grim process of paying off karmic debts from this life and countless others. When something difficult happens, our first thought is, what did I do to deserve this? We are haunted by the mistakes of our past, fearing the inevitable retribution. This interpretation of karma, far from being liberating, is a sophisticated and terrifying spiritual trap. It is a projection of our own human models of crime and punishment onto the vast, impersonal intelligence of the universe. This fear-based model creates a deep inner conflict. On one hand, we feel the heavy weight of our past actions, believing they have irrevocably stained our present and doomed our future. On the other hand, the soul yearns for grace, for a fresh start, for the freedom to create a new reality. We are caught between a fear of divine judgment and a deep desire for liberation. Today, we must wipe the slate clean and approach this ancient law with new eyes. Karma is not a system of moral retribution. The Sanskrit word karma simply means action. The law of karma is, therefore, the law of action and result. It is as neutral, as impersonal, and as reliable as the law of gravity. Gravity does not punish you for stepping off a cliff. It simply responds to the action with a predictable result. The law of karma operates with this same elegant impersonality. It is the universe's ultimate feedback mechanism, showing you, with perfect clarity, the consequence of your own energy. The most helpful way to understand this law is through the metaphor of a garden. Your mind, your consciousness, is the fertile soil. Every thought you think, every word you speak, and every action you take is a seed that you are planting in that soil. The universe is the neutral ground that simply provides the conditions for whatever seed you plant to grow according to its nature. It does not judge the seed. It does not prefer a rose seed to a thistle seed. Its only job is to infallibly bring forth a harvest that matches what was sown. If you consistently plant seeds of anger, resentment, blame, and criticism, you cannot possibly hope to harvest a garden of peace, loving connection, and joy. You will harvest a garden full of thorns and bitter fruit, because that is the nature of the seeds you have planted. If, on the other hand, you consciously choose to plant seeds of kindness, compassion, generosity, and forgiveness, your harvest will inevitably be one of sweetness and beauty. This is not a reward. It is a simple, energetic consequence. The most potent aspect of any seed is not the outer action itself, but the inner intention from which it springs. This is the energetic DNA of the seed. An act of charity performed out of a desire for public recognition is a seed of ego. Its fruit will be fleeting praise and a reinforcement of your own need for validation. The exact same act, performed out of a silent, selfless desire to alleviate suffering, is a seed of pure love. Its fruit will be an expansion of your own heart and a ripple of genuine grace in the world. The action may look identical, but the energetic cause and therefore the karmic result is entirely different. This understanding moves you out of the position of a fearful sinner awaiting punishment and into the position of a conscious and responsible gardener. You are not a victim of your past harvest. You are the creator of your future one. So how do we practice this art of conscious gardening? It begins with the intentional pause. Before you speak, before you type that angry comment, before you take an action born of reactivity, create a space. In that tiny moment of stillness, ask yourself, what is the root of this action I am about to take? Is it coming from a place of love or a place of fear? Is it coming from a desire to connect or a desire to be right? Is it expansive and open or contracted and defensive? This simple, honest inquiry can completely change the quality of the seed you are about to sow. It is the moment you choose a rose instead of a thistle. Next, you must practice a form of karmic forgiveness. Many of us are tormented by the garden we have already grown. We look at the weeds and thorns of our past actions, and we live in a state of perpetual regret and guilt. To feel guilt over the seeds you planted yesterday is to continue watering them with your attention today. You must make peace with the gardener you used to be. You acted from your level of consciousness at the time. You did the best you could with the awareness you had. The practice is to look upon your past self and your past actions with compassion, to learn the lesson, and to forgive yourself completely. This act of forgiveness is not a denial of responsibility. It is the responsible act of refusing to carry a dead past into your living present. It is what allows the old, unwanted plants to finally wither from lack of energy. And most importantly, you must realize that your point of power is always and only now. Regardless of what your garden looks like today, in this very moment, you are standing on a fresh patch of soil. You can choose, right now, to plant a different kind of seed. You can choose to think a thought of gratitude. You can choose to speak a word of encouragement to someone. You can choose to perform a small, unseen act of kindness. Each present moment is a new opportunity to sow the seeds of the future you wish to inhabit. The past does not define you. The seeds you are planting right now define the direction you are heading. When you see karma not as a punitive cosmic law, but as an empowering and impersonal law of creation, your relationship with the universe is transformed. You are not living under the watchful, judgmental eye of a distant God. You are an active and powerful participant in a responsive, intelligent reality. You are the gardener, and the universe is your faithful, fertile ground. You are the one who makes a sound, and the universe is the perfect echo that returns your own energy to you. This realization changes everything. The universe ceases to be a force to be feared and becomes a partner to be danced with. You understand that you are, and have always been, in a constant and intimate dialogue with life itself. When we finally release the old, fearful idea of karma as a cosmic punishment system, we begin to see the universe in a completely new light. We are not being judged from on high. We are being responded to from within a vast, intelligent field of energy. The law of cause and effect is not a verdict. It is a feedback loop. And if there is a feedback loop, it means we are in a relationship. It means we are in a dialogue. This realization stands in stark contrast to one of the most painful aspects of the human condition, the feeling of cosmic loneliness. We have often felt like tiny, isolated beings on a speck of dust, shouting our hopes, our dreams, and our prayers into a vast, silent, and indifferent void. We ask for a sign, we plead for guidance, and the silence that answers can feel deafening, confirming our deepest fear that we are utterly and completely alone. This feeling of being unheard stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of the dialogue. We have been trying to speak to the universe in our own human language, the language of words, of wanting, of begging. But the universe does not communicate in words. Its native tongue is the language of energy, of frequency, of vibration. It does not hear the desperate plea your mind is shouting. It feels the powerful, underlying frequency your heart is broadcasting. When you pray for abundance from a state of deep, visceral lack, the universe does not hear the word abundance. It feels the vibration of lack, and, in its perfect, impersonal wisdom, it responds by giving you more experiences that match that feeling of lack. It is faithfully answering your true broadcast. This is why traditional prayer can so often feel like a one-way conversation. We are like someone who is trying to call a foreign country, but refusing to dial the country code. We are broadcasting on the wrong frequency. The universe is not ignoring you. It has been responding to you perfectly and precisely every moment of your life. The dialogue is constant and uninterrupted. The only problem is that you have not been taught how to recognize its language. The inner conflict for the modern seeker is between a deep, soul-level yearning for connection to something greater and a conditioned, rational skepticism that dismisses the very evidence of that connection. We ask for a sign, but when a meaningful coincidence occurs, the skeptical mind immediately labels it as just a coincidence. We notice a recurring pattern or symbol in our lives, and the inner critic dismisses it as confirmation bias. We have a flash of intuition, a gut feeling, and our intellect explains it away as wishful thinking. We are like a person dying of thirst who refuses to drink from a stream because they are waiting for water to be delivered in a bottle. We are so busy looking for a booming voice from the heavens that we fail to notice the intimate, subtle, and constant conversation that is already taking place all around us. Your job is not to initiate the dialogue. Your job is to awaken to the fact that you are, and have always been, in the middle of it. The universe speaks to you not in grand pronouncements, but in the elegant and symbolic language of synchronicity. Synchronicity is a term for a meaningful coincidence, a moment when the inner world of your thoughts and feelings aligns perfectly with an event in the outer world. It is the universe winking at you. It's when you are wrestling with a difficult decision and you overhear a snippet of a stranger's conversation that contains the exact wisdom you needed to hear. It's when you think of an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, and your phone rings, and it's them. It's when you see the same sequence of numbers, the same animal, or the same symbol over and over again in a short period of time, drawing your attention to a specific theme. These are not random accidents in a meaningless world. These are trail markers, placed on your path by a responsive intelligence, confirming that you are on track, or gently nudging you in a new direction. The universe also speaks to you through the mirror of other people. The people who trigger you most intensely are often your greatest teachers, mirroring back to you a disowned part of your own shadow. The people you most admire are mirroring your own highest potential. Life also communicates through opportunities and obstacles. A door that slams shut in your face is not a punishment. It is a merciful redirection. An unexpected obstacle is not a sign that you should give up. It is an invitation from life to develop a new strength, a deeper resolve, or a more creative approach. So, how do we learn this new language? How do we tune our receiver to the frequency of this cosmic dialogue? The most powerful practice is to start a synchronicity journal. Get a small notebook and dedicate it solely to this purpose. Every time a meaningful coincidence occurs, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, write it down. Did you see the number 11 on the clock again? Write it down. Did you hear a song on the radio with lyrics that spoke directly to your situation? Write it down. The simple act of recording these events signals to the universe and to your own subconscious mind that you are paying attention. You are honoring the dialogue. Over time, as you fill this journal, you will be astonished at the sheer volume of the conversation. You will have undeniable proof that you are being guided. Another practice is to ask and then listen. Before you go to sleep at night, when your mind is quiet and receptive, formulate a single, clear question. What is the most loving way to approach this conflict? Or show me my next step on my creative path. Ask the question and then release it completely. Don't obsess over it. For the next day or two, simply be in a state of open, curious awareness. Pay attention to your dreams, to the animals that cross your path, to the headlines you see, to the random thoughts that pop into your head. The answer will come, often in a symbolic or metaphorical way that your intuition will understand. Finally, adopt the mindset that everything in your life is a potential messenger. The difficult colleague is your teacher in patience. The unexpected expense is your teacher in faith. The breathtaking sunset is a message of grace and beauty. When you see life not as a series of random, disconnected events, but as a living, intelligent tapestry of meaning, your world becomes enchanted. You are no longer separate from life. You are in an intimate dance with it. You are not, and have never been, alone. You are not shouting into a void. You are in a constant, dynamic, and loving conversation with a universe that is profoundly intelligent and deeply personal. It is a universe that mirrors your energy, responds to your frequency, and guides your path with a trail of symbolic breadcrumbs. This constant, unfolding dialogue does not happen only in the sacred moments of quiet meditation. The dance takes place on the vast stage of your everyday life. Every task, every interaction, every mundane moment is an opportunity to listen, to respond, and to participate in this cosmic conversation. And this understanding invites us to transform the most ordinary of our actions into something deeply and truly sacred. We have awakened to the profound truth that we are in a constant, unfolding dialogue with an intelligent and responsive universe. We have learned to listen for its subtle whispers in the language of synchronicity and symbol. But this dialogue does not only occur in the sacred, quiet moments of meditation or in dramatic, life-altering events. The stage for this cosmic conversation is your everyday life. The great tragedy of our modern spiritual search is that we have cleaved our lives in two. We have built a high wall between the sacred and the secular. On one side of the wall are our spiritual practices, the yoga class, the Sunday service, the 10 minutes we spend on a meditation cushion. These are the moments we deem holy, the times we are consciously trying to connect with something greater. On the other side of the wall is everything else. Our jobs, our commutes, our chores, the preparing of meals, the paying of bills. This we have labeled mundane life. This is the stuff we must endure, the profane and meaningless filler between our brief moments of sacred connection. We live for the weekend, for the vacation, for the retreat, tolerating the vast majority of our waking hours as a necessary evil. This division is an illusion, an invention of the categorizing mind, and it is the source of a deep and persistent feeling of meaninglessness. It forces us to live a fragmented existence. We have a spiritual self that is kind and present for 10 minutes in the morning, and then a work self that is stressed and reactive for the next 8 hours. We feel like we must leave our soul at the door when we enter the office or the factory. We are caught in a painful conflict between the soul's deep yearning for a life of purpose and the perceived reality of a life filled with meaningless, repetitive tasks. We read of saints and sages and believe that a sacred life is a special destiny for a chosen few, something far removed from our ordinary existence. Today, we tear down this wall. We are here to reclaim the entirety of our lives as sacred territory. The great secret is this: there are no mundane acts. There are only mundane states of consciousness. It is never what you are doing that makes an action sacred or profane. It is the quality of awareness and intention that you bring to the doing. Any action, no matter how simple, how repetitive, how seemingly insignificant, when performed with your full, loving, undivided attention, becomes a sacrament. It becomes a prayer. It becomes a moving meditation. Think of the Zen master performing the tea ceremony. For the master, the brewing of tea is not a mundane chore to be rushed through to get a caffeinated drink. It is a complete expression of enlightenment. Every gesture, the scooping of the tea, the pouring of the hot water, the whisking of the matcha is performed with absolute presence. The master is fully unified with the act. In that moment, there is no separation between the master, the tea, and the universe. The simple act of making tea becomes an altar. Think of a master carpenter working with a piece of wood. They do not see it as inert material to be forced into a shape. They honor it. They feel its grain with their fingertips. They smell its fragrance. They respect its unique nature. Their focus is not just on the finished product. It is on the sacred honor of the craft itself. Every cut of the saw, every tap of the hammer is an act of love and presence. You do not need to be a Zen master or a master craftsman to bring this quality of attention to your life. You can transform your entire existence by infusing the ordinary with this extraordinary presence. Your kitchen sink can become your altar. Your office desk can become your sanctuary. Your daily commute can become your pilgrimage. How do we begin this practice? You can start by choosing one simple daily task that you normally perform on autopilot, perhaps one you even dislike. It could be washing the dishes, folding the laundry, brushing your teeth, or making your morning coffee. For this week, make a commitment to perform this one act as a sacred ritual. When you wash the dishes, do not listen to a podcast or plan the rest of your day in your head. Just wash the dishes. Feel the warmth of the water on your hands. See the iridescent beauty of the soap bubbles. Hear the sound of the plates clinking together. Perform the entire act with a slow, deliberate grace, as if it were the most important task in the world. In that moment, it is. You are not just washing dishes, you are practicing the art of being fully alive. Before you begin your workday, take 60 seconds to set a sacred intention. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and silently state your intention for the day. It might be, may I bring presence and kindness to every interaction today. It might be, may my work be of genuine service to others. It might be, may I meet challenges with creativity and a calm heart. This simple act reframes your job from being merely a means to a paycheck into a vast and fertile field for your spiritual growth. Practice the art of sacred listening. In your next conversation, commit to offering the other person the rare and holy gift of your full attention. Do not just wait for your turn to speak. Do not just listen for the information you can extract. Listen to the person. Listen to the music behind their words, their tone, their pace, their unspoken emotions. Be present with them so completely that they feel truly seen and heard. This transforms a simple conversation into an act of profound love and connection, a true meeting of two souls. When you bring this quality of presence and intention to the small moments of your life, they cease to be small. The illusion of the mundane dissolves. You stop living for a future state of enlightenment or happiness, and you begin to discover a wellspring of peace and meaning right here, in the texture of the present moment. You are no longer trying to get somewhere. You are learning to be fully here. This practice of finding the sacred in the ordinary, of valuing the process as much as the outcome, initiates a seismic shift in our value system. When the act of washing a dish can feel as peaceful as a formal meditation, when the act of truly listening to a friend can feel as fulfilling as receiving a promotion, we are freed from the desperate chase for external validation. We stop seeking happiness in the next achievement, the next purchase, the next relationship. We have discovered that the source of fulfillment is not in what we get from life, but in the quality of attention we bring to it. This new orientation invites us to completely redefine our ideas of a successful and happy life. As we learn to infuse our daily actions with presence and intention, as we discover that the sacred can be found in the bottom of a teacup or in the rhythm of our own breathing, a quiet revolution begins to take place. The desperate, hungry chase for external validation starts to lose its power. We are no longer trying to prove our worth through our doing, because we are discovering an inherent sense of peace in our being. This newfound inner fulfillment invites us to question the very destination we have been running toward. It invites us to redefine our entire understanding of success and happiness. From the moment we are born, we are handed a map. This map is drawn by our parents, our culture, our education system, and the media. It purports to show the direct route to a place called success. The landmarks on this map are clear and visible: a prestigious degree, a high-paying career, a larger house, a faster car, a perfectly curated family, a certain number in a bank account. It is a game of external accumulation, a race of more and better. And we, as dutiful travelers, have spent most of our lives following this map, believing that if we just reach the next landmark, we will finally arrive at the fabled land of happiness. But a strange and tragic phenomenon occurs to many of those who win this game. They reach the finish line, they acquire all the prizes, they stand on the summit of the mountain designated by the map, and in the quiet that follows the celebration, a hollow, sinking feeling arises. A quiet, terrifying question echoes in their soul. Is this all there is? They have followed the map perfectly, but have arrived at a destination that feels empty and foreign. The treasure chest is full, but their heart is barren. This is because the map was a lie. Not a malicious lie, but a lie born of a collective illusion. It is a one-size-fits-all guide to a good life, but the soul is not a one-size-fits-all entity. We have been chasing a definition of success that was not our own. We have been trying to win a game that our own soul never wanted to play. This pursuit forces us to live a life governed by shoulds. I should pursue this career for the status. I should marry this person to please my family. I should live in this neighborhood to project the right image. We become actors playing a role in a life scripted by others, and we wonder why we feel so inauthentic and disconnected. This creates a deep inner conflict. On one side, there is the loud, demanding voice of the world, pushing us to keep climbing the external ladder. The pressure to conform, to achieve, to measure up is immense. But on the other side, there is a quiet, persistent whisper from the soul. It is not a voice of words, but a feeling of offness, a subtle discomfort, a quiet longing for something more, something different, something true. We try to ignore this whisper. It is inconvenient. It is irrational. It is telling us to step off the well-paved, brightly lit highway that everyone else is traveling on, and to venture into the dark, unmapped forest of our own unique truth. The conflict is between the perceived safety of the conventional path and the terrifying yet exhilarating call of your own authentic journey. Today, we burn the map, and in its place, we learn to consult a far more ancient, more accurate, and more personal navigational tool, the inner compass. Within every single being, there is an innate, infallible guidance system. This compass does not point to a geographical North Pole of external achievement. It points toward your own true north, the direction of your deepest values, your most authentic passions, and your unique soul-level purpose. It points toward the person you were born to be. With this understanding, our definition of success is turned on its head. True success is no longer an external destination to be reached in the future. It is a present moment, internal state of being. Success is the feeling of alignment. It is the moment-to-moment experience of knowing that your actions in the outer world are in perfect congruence with the truth of your inner world. It is the deep, quiet satisfaction of walking in the direction of your own true north. In this new paradigm, a struggling artist who paints every day from a place of authentic passion is more successful than a miserable billionaire who spends his days doing work that deadens his soul. Success ceases to be a state of having and becomes a state of being. This also radically redefines happiness. We have been taught that success brings happiness. Once I get the promotion, then I'll be happy. Once I lose the weight, then I'll be happy. This is the great lie that keeps us on the treadmill. The truth is the exact opposite. Happiness, or more accurately, a deep sense of joy, flow, and fulfillment is the fuel for true success. When you are aligned with your inner compass, your actions are naturally imbued with energy and enthusiasm. You are not pushing yourself, you are being pulled by your own purpose. This state of joyful alignment is what allows you to create beautiful things in the world, not as a means to an end, but as a natural byproduct of your own authentic expression. You follow your joy, and a life of profound success builds itself around you. So how do we learn to hear the quiet whisper of this compass over the loud roar of the world? First, you must write your own manifesto of success. Take a journal and ask yourself this question: if I could not fail, and if no one would judge me, what would a truly successful life feel like? Define it not in terms of objects or titles, but in terms of feelings and states of being. Would it feel like freedom, peace, creativity, adventure, deep connection, joyful service? Get crystal clear on the feeling you are actually chasing. This feeling is your true north. Second, you must become a detective of your own aliveness. Make a list of the activities, conversations, places, and people that make you feel genuinely, effortlessly alive. When do you lose all track of time? What were you doing the last time you felt a surge of uncomplicated joy? Who do you feel most like yourself around? This list is a set of clues, a trail of breadcrumbs left by your soul. These are the things that are aligned with your compass. Your work is to begin, in small ways, to orient your life more and more around these things. Finally, you must practice making compass-guided decisions. For the small choices of your day, try to consult your inner guidance system instead of pure logic. When deciding what to do on a Saturday afternoon, instead of asking, "What is the most productive thing I could do?" ask, "What would bring me the most joy?" When choosing between two social invitations, instead of asking, "Which one should I go to?" ask, "Which one do I feel a genuine pull toward?" This practice of trusting the subtle feeling of expansion over the loud voice of logic or obligation builds the muscle of intuition. You learn to trust your inner guidance, choosing to navigate by your own inner compass instead of the world's crowded map is the ultimate act of sovereignty. It is not always the easiest path. You may have to disappoint people. You may have to choose a path that others do not understand. At times, it can feel like you are walking a solitary road, diverging from the main highway where your friends and family are traveling. But this journey, while it may be solitary, is never truly lonely. For when you walk your own authentic path, you begin to broadcast a clear, true, and unique signal into the world. And that signal, that light from your own inner lighthouse, will inevitably be seen by others who are also walking their own true path, guided by their own inner light. When we make the brave and sovereign choice to navigate our lives by the light of our own inner compass, we often find ourselves walking a path that diverges from the well-trodden highways of the crowd. As our values shift from external accumulation to internal alignment, the conversations, activities, and goals that once connected us to those around us can begin to feel hollow. This can be a lonely and disorienting phase of the journey. You may feel like you have learned a beautiful and profound new language, only to discover that no one around you seems to speak it. You are an awakened soul in a world that is, for the most part, still sound asleep. This experience of alienation is not a sign that you have done something wrong. It is a sign that your inner world is powerfully transforming. As your energetic frequency changes, your outer world must inevitably reorganize itself to match this new vibration. Friendships that were built on a foundation of shared complaints, superficial interests, or a mutual desire to numb and distract may begin to feel strained and fall away. This is not a failure. It is a natural and necessary purification. You cannot grow into a new version of yourself and expect all of your old containers to still fit. The inner conflict that arises here is immense. On one hand, you feel a deep, almost irrepressible desire to share the incredible discoveries you are making. You want to tell everyone you love about the peace you have found in stillness, the freedom in letting go of old stories, the magic of living in dialogue with the universe. But on the other hand, there is a very real and valid fear of how this newfound passion will be received. You fear the blank stares, the condescending pats on the back, the subtle ridicule, or the outright judgment. You fear being labeled as weird, naive, or holier than thou. This conflict can lead us to hide our light, to put the mask back on in social situations, retreating into a spiritual closet that feels safe but is also terribly lonely. Here we must understand a fundamental law of energetic connection. Your tribe, your soul family, the people who will see, celebrate, and challenge you to become the fullest version of yourself is not found by desperately searching for them. You do not find your tribe by trying to convince others to join you. You attract your tribe by having the courage to be you, fully and unapologetically. Imagine you are a lighthouse, standing on a rocky shore. For years, you may have kept your light dim for fear of being too bright. Or perhaps you tried to change the color of your light to match the other lighthouses you saw in the distance, hoping they would accept you. But your job is not to seek out other lighthouses. Your job is to be a lighthouse. It is to tend to your own inner light, to polish your own lens, and to shine your own unique, authentic beam into the darkness as brightly and as truly as you can. When you do this, something magical happens. Across the vast, dark waters of the world, other lighthouses, who have been waiting for a light just like yours, will see your signal. They will recognize your frequency. They will know they are not alone. You do not find your tribe by running around with a map. You call them to you by shining your light. This is the law of resonance at a human level. When you are fully inhabiting your authentic self, you are broadcasting a clear, powerful, and unique frequency. This signal automatically and without effort attracts people, opportunities, and connections that are in harmony with it. Simultaneously, it will naturally and gracefully cause those who are not a vibrational match to drift away. This is not a personal rejection or a cruel act. It is an impersonal and merciful law of physics that ensures your life gradually fills with people who are meant to be there and empties of those who are not. So, what is the practical work of finding your tribe? It is simply the work of being the lighthouse. First, you must commit to your own authenticity. This is the foundation of it all. Do the inner work we have spoken of. Follow your inner compass. Engage in the activities that make your soul feel alive, regardless of whether they are popular or understood by others. When you are lit up from within by your own genuine passion, you become magnetic. Second, when you do speak of your journey, share your passion, not your dogma. People are not drawn to lectures or sermons. They are drawn to genuine enthusiasm. Instead of saying, "You should meditate, it will fix your problems," try sharing from your own experience. I've been exploring meditation lately, and it's been bringing me a surprising amount of peace. One is a judgment, the other is an invitation. Share your light, don't try to aim it in people's faces. Third, you must consciously follow the energetic trail. Go where your soul feels nourished. Go to the places where people who share your values and interests are likely to gather. This could be a yoga studio, a spiritual bookstore, a workshop on a topic that fascinates you, a hiking club, or an online forum dedicated to conscious growth. You are not going to these places with the needy agenda of finding friends. You are going with the simple intention of being in an environment that matches your frequency and sharing in a common interest. Connection will arise as a natural, unforced byproduct of shared resonance. Finally, you must be willing to value depth over breadth. In our social media-driven world, we are conditioned to value the quantity of our connections over their quality. The journey of the soul teaches us the opposite. One single friendship in which you can be your complete, messy, authentic self is infinitely more nourishing than 100 superficial acquaintances before whom you must wear a mask. This may mean your social circle becomes smaller, but its depth and richness will increase exponentially. Be willing to release the relationships that require you to shrink in order to make space for the ones that will ask you to grow. The path of authenticity may begin as a solitary one, but it does not end there. It is the path that leads you home, not only to yourself, but to the others who are walking their own way home too. You will find them, or rather, they will find you, when you have the courage to simply be the beacon you were born to be. As we find our place in the world, not by conforming to it, but by conforming to the truth of our own soul, we begin to realize something extraordinary. This entire journey, this deep dive into the shadows and the light, this process of shedding skins and dismantling illusions has not been about fixing what was broken or becoming someone new. We have come all this way, through all these inner landscapes, only to arrive back where we started, but with the profound gift of seeing it, and ourselves, for the very first time. We are now ready to complete the circle. As you learn to shine your own authentic light, you begin to attract your soul tribe, the fellow lighthouses who recognize your signal across the water. This journey, which may have begun in a feeling of profound isolation, reveals itself to be a path toward the most genuine connection you have ever known. And as you find your place, not by contorting yourself to fit the world, but by allowing the world to rearrange itself around your authentic soul, you stand on the precipice of the final, most liberating realization of all. You realize that this entire epic journey, this deep dive into the center of your being has been a perfect circle. We begin the spiritual path with a subtle but powerful assumption. We believe we are on a linear journey from A to B. We are at point A, a state of being broken, flawed, unenlightened, and unhappy. We are striving to reach point B, a future destination of being fixed, whole, enlightened, and permanently happy. We imagine a finish line, a graduation day, a moment when the work will finally be done, and we will arrive at a state of perpetual peace where no problem can ever touch us again. This belief in a final destination is the last and most cunning illusion of the ego. It takes the infinite, boundless, and cyclical journey of the soul and turns it into one more project to be completed, one more mountain to be conquered, one more achievement to be added to its resume. This mindset, however subtle, keeps us trapped in the very paradigm we are trying to escape. It keeps us in a state of striving, of not there yet. We begin to measure our progress. We judge our bad days, the days we feel angry, lost, or afraid as failures or setbacks on our path. We have a profound insight in meditation, only to lose our temper in traffic an hour later, and the ego immediately concludes, "You failed. It didn't work. You're still just as broken as you were before." This creates a sophisticated form of spiritual anxiety, a sense that we are constantly falling short of an imagined ideal, a feeling that we are failing at our own liberation. The inner conflict is between the memory of the peace we have touched and the disappointment of our own imperfect humanity. We have tasted freedom, and now the moments of bondage feel even more acute. This can lead to a sense of despair, a feeling that this whole journey is a fool's errand. But this despair arises only because we are still looking at our journey through the lens of a straight line, a ladder to be climbed. We must now abandon the line and the ladder and embrace the wisdom of the circle. The purpose of this journey was never to arrive at a new destination. The purpose was to return to where you started and to finally know the place for the first time. You are not on a journey to become whole. You are on a journey of dismantling all the beliefs that told you you were not whole. You were never broken. You were only ever dreaming that you were broken. The entire path we have walked together through the silence, through the shadows, through the masks and the stories has simply been the process of waking up from that dream. You arrive back in your own mind, but you know it for the first time. You are no longer identified with the relentless chatter of the inner critic. You see it for what it is, impersonal mental weather, and you know yourself as the vast, silent sky. You arrive back in your own body, but you know it for the first time. You no longer treat it as an inconvenient machine to be ignored or punished. You inhabit it as a sacred temple, a wise animal, an infallible anchor to the truth of the present moment. You arrive back in your relationships, but you know them for the first time. You no longer wear the exhausting masks of your persona. You show up in your authentic truth, allowing for a depth of connection and intimacy you never thought possible. You arrive back in your daily life, but you know it for the first time. The wall between the sacred and the mundane has dissolved. Washing the dishes, answering an email, sitting in traffic each moment is now recognized as a sacred opportunity to practice presence, to be in dialogue with the universe. The goal was never to fix yourself. It was to realize you were never broken. The goal was never to attain enlightenment. It was to see that your own basic, ordinary consciousness, when freed from the entanglement of thought, is itself the clear light of awareness. You have not added a single thing to yourself. You have only stripped away the layers of false identity that were obscuring the radiant, perfect wholeness that has been your true nature from the very beginning. There is no destination, because you are already home. You have only been dreaming that you were a distant traveler. Waking up is the entire journey. So how do we live this circular truth in a world that still worships the straight line? First, you must celebrate progress, not perfection. The goal is no longer to achieve a mythical state of never being triggered again. The goal is to shorten the refractory period. If you used to get angry and stay angry for 3 days, and now you get angry and it only takes you 3 hours to return to your center, that is a monumental victory. That is the practice. You celebrate the grace and speed of your return home, not the fact that you never left. Second, you learn to embrace the imperfection of your humanity as the very curriculum of your practice. Your bad days are no longer evidence of your failure. They are your greatest opportunities. When anxiety arises, you have the opportunity to practice anchoring in your body. When judgment arises, you have the opportunity to practice compassion. When the old story of your victimhood tries to play itself, you have the opportunity to practice recognizing it as a story and not believing it. The challenges are not obstacles on the path. They are the path. And finally, you can begin each day not with a goal, but with an intention of return. Instead of asking, "What must I achieve today to be successful?" you can ask the gentle, powerful question, "How can I return home to myself today?" This question orients your entire day around the practice of presence. Perhaps the answer is to take 5 conscious breaths before your first meeting. Perhaps it is to listen to a friend with your full attention. Perhaps it is simply to feel your feet on the earth. This is a path of constant, gentle, moment-by-moment return. And so, the circle completes itself. We end where we began, yet everything is different. The search is over, not because we have found some final, ultimate answer, but because we have realized the one who was searching was the treasure all along. The war is over, not because you have vanquished your enemies, but because you have recognized that they were only shadows of your own unloved parts. The striving can cease. You can finally rest in the profound, unshakable truth of who you are, a truth that was never lost, only overlooked. Let us now gather these threads, these insights that we have explored together, and weave them into a final tapestry of remembrance. At the beginning of our journey together, we stood before a cracked mirror, exhausted from the endless effort of trying to polish away its fractures, trying to perfect the flawed reflection staring back at us. We believed the problem was the image, and that with enough work, we could fix it. Today, after traveling so far within, you stand before that same mirror, but you see it with new eyes. You feel no compulsion to fix the cracks. You feel no desperate need to alter the reflection. You understand now that the mirror was never the measure of you. It was only ever a reflection of the world's judgments, expectations, and its own brokenness. And so you do not try to fix the mirror, nor do you labor to change the image. You have realized the final, liberating truth. You are not the mirror, nor are you the reflection. You are the silent, steady, and inexhaustible light in which both the mirror and its ever-changing reflection appear. This is the homecoming. It is the realization that the peace you have been seeking was never at the end of some long and arduous path. It was here all along, obscured by the noise of your own striving. You did not need to become worthy. You only needed to recognize the inherent worth that was never absent. You did not need to heal your brokenness. You only needed to awaken from the dream that you were broken. The profound relief you have been searching for does not come from finally becoming a better version of yourself. It comes from finally and completely abandoning the project of self-improvement. Your power is not a future prize to be won once you are fixed. It is here, in this moment, in your capacity to hold your own experience with compassion. Your strength is here, now, in your willingness to be authentic. Your peace is here, now, in your ability to rest as the silent, spacious awareness that you have always been. The war is over. Not because you have finally vanquished an enemy, but because you have turned on the light and realized the enemy was never real. The search has ended. Welcome home.